Chapter 1607. 20,000 Peerless Experts. In addition to the tens of thousands of peerless experts that were killed previously, the peerless experts of the Ice-Snow sect were probably all here. It was estimated that at this time, there were not many experts left to guard the Ice-Snow sect's lair. At this time, if they attacked with their peak strength, the Ice-Snow sect's lair might be destroyed. However, the Ice-Snow sect took the risk of their lair being destroyed to come out in full force. They would not give up until they got the Heart of Ice. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Without any hesitation, the peerless experts of the Ice-Snow sect rushed into the mysterious Frost secret realm. However, only about 10,000 of them entered the mysterious Frost secret realm. The other half firmly surrounded the entrance of the mysterious Frost secret realm. His enormous divine thoughts covered the entrance of the mysterious Frost secret realm like a vast ocean. Once they found something wrong, the terrifying power of tens of thousands of peerless experts would come crashing down. That way, even the experts on the Saint rankings would not be able to stop them, because these peerless experts were different from the ones that were killed by Murong Yu and Yin Gaohan. The weakest among them were mid-level chaotic ancestral saint. There were even quite a number of high-level chaotic ancestral saint. Their combined strength was dozens or even hundreds of times that of the previous 10,000 peerless experts. These guys are quite cautious. Murong Yu smiled as he transmitted his voice to Zhong Mingji and the others. Hidden in the void, he did not look nervous at all. On the contrary, he looked relaxed. The current situation was different from before. Previously, because Yin Gaohan was still in danger, they had to be on tenterhooks. But now, no one on their side was in danger. Even if they were no match for the Ice-Snow sect, they could just leave. There was no pressure at all. Junior brother, do you think we should kill these people outside first, or those inside the secret realm first? Yin Gaohan transmitted his voice to Murong Yu in a negotiating tone. The two of them were the main force in this ambush of the Ice-Snow sect. They must cooperate well to wipe out the Ice-Snow sect in one fell swoop. Kill the people outside first, then catch the turtle in the jar, Murong Yu said faintly. Yin Gaohan also nodded slightly. Murong Yu's thoughts coincided with his. 13th senior brother, let me give them a soul storm first. The moment I make my move, you make your move. That way we can cooperate well and kill them all in one fell swoop. Murong Yu transmitted his voice, and then his figure was already shuttling through the void. The reason Murong Yu made the first move was because of his soul attack. These people were all peerless experts, and their reaction speed was extremely fast. Murong Yu's soul storm would definitely be able to kill a portion of them. And when these people reacted, they would of their strength of soul of ice of their powers. Of their soul. Of their soul of their of course. Before soul. Of their soul. Of their of their. Of their. Of their. Of their. Of their of sect. The of their 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 of them of Murong Yu's precepts of space were getting more and more powerful. After turning invisible and shuttling through the void, none of the peerless experts of the of ice of sect discovered him. Even if they did, they wouldn't care. Soul storm. Soul storm. Soul storm. Murong Yu went to the rear of the of ice of sect, just enough for his soul attack to cover all of them in the void. Without any hesitation, he launched his attack. The reaction speed of these experts, who were at least mid-stage chaotic ancestor saints, was indeed abnormal. When Murong Yu made his first move, the souls of these people began to tremble. Their hearts were also shrouded by an extremely strong aura of danger, even the aura of death. Everyone's expression changed instantly. They immediately concentrated their power in their soul space to protect their souls. Some of them even blasted out a terrifying force into the distance, trying to shake the sneak attacker out of the void. Bang! 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 Almost by the time they reacted, the incomparably violent soul attack had already blasted down. Therefore, the souls of the of Ice Sect's experts immediately suffered an incomparably terrifying bombardment. Some mid-stage chaotic ancestor saints who reacted a beat slower let out a series of blood-curdling screams. Their souls were directly annihilated, and they couldn't be more dead. Although the rest of the mid-stage chaotic ancestor saints reacted a lot faster, their souls were still severely damaged. However, his soul had still received a strong impact, and he had been injured both lightly and heavily. The high-stage chaotic ancestor saints who took action suffered less damage to their souls. After all, they were so powerful that they could block most of Murong Yu's soul attack. However, even so, their souls were still impacted. For a moment, they were shaken into a daze. Moreover, the most terrifying thing was that waves of incomparably violent soul attack came down endlessly. They could only protect their souls. At this moment, Yin Gaoan also made his move. An energy condensed from the force of extreme frost that blotted out the sky and covered the sun appeared out of thin air above the Church of Ice. Carrying a terrifying aura that chilled the hearts of many peerless experts, it shattered the void and viciously slapped down. Moreover, what was even more frightening was that the threat of this powerful hand seemed to be even greater than Murong Yu's soul attack. The expressions of the peerless experts of the of Ice sect changed abruptly. One by one, they could not help but separate a part of their power and blast it towards the rapidly slapping hand. For a moment, all sorts of holy light shot out. All sorts of saint artifacts and magic treasures erupted with extremely terrifying pressure. They either slammed towards the huge hand of power viciously, or hovered in the air above their heads and sent down strands of energy to protect them. Or they simply transformed into all kinds of armor to protect their bodies. There were many more. Boom. Although it took a long time to describe, in fact, all this happened in the blink of an eye. After an earth-shattering boom, the giant hand had already slapped down rapidly. Boom. Crack instantly, countless forces, sacred weapons, magic treasures, and even peerless experts were first frozen, then shattered into ice shards. With just this palm alone, Yin Gaohan had smashed at least 3,000 peerless experts, and Murong Yu's soul attack had only annihilated several hundred peerless experts. The gap between the two was obvious. However, the biggest gap was between the peerless experts of the of Ice sect and Yin Gaohan. Ordinary chaotic ancestor saints, even if they were 9th-level chaotic ancestor saints, were far from being a match for experts on the saint rankings. They were just chickens and dogs. An expert on the saint rankings killing a 9th-level chaotic ancestor saint was as simple as a chaotic ancestor saint killing an ancestor saint. Although there were a lot of them, it was only a matter of time. One palm slapped 1/3 of the experts to death. Some of those who did not die were severely injured. In fact, their bodies were even frozen. For a moment, they were unable to move. As for Murong Yu, he took advantage of this opportunity to unleash his most violent soul attack. Poof, poof, poof. After a few rounds of attacks, another 1 to 2,000 peerless experts were killed. And at this time, Yin Gaohan also made a powerful move. Under the cooperation of Murong Yu and Yin Gaohan, the 10,000 peerless experts of the of Ice sect were wiped out in less than 10 breaths of time. Damn! This is too terrifying. Zhong Mingji and the others who were hiding in the surroundings did not even have the chance to make a move before the of Ice sect was completely wiped out. This made them rather speechless, but more than that, they were shocked. This was the power of experts on the saint rankings. This was the power of a soul sage. With the cooperation of Yin Gaohan and Murong Yu, they could easily kill anyone below the saint rankings, no matter how many there were. Killing gods! Lu Xiankai sighed. And the others were also shocked. The of Ice sect is really blind to provoke us, the infernal society. Everyone was sighing. Senior brother Yin Gaoan is already so powerful, then how powerful is 4th senior brother who is ranked 10th on the saint rankings? And how terrifying are the Supremes above the Saint rankings? Wu Xinshui suddenly said. Everyone's heart skipped a beat as they woke up from their ecstasy and shock. Don't be fooled by how they easily wiped out the experts of the of Ice sect, as if they were slaughtering chickens and dogs. But if there were experts ranked higher on the Saint rankings, killing them would be as easy as snapping a finger. Not to mention, there were Supremes at the very top. With the strength of a Supremes, they could probably kill experts of Yin Gaohan's level in one breath, right? As for Murong Yu, he was even more unbearable. He only had an excessively powerful soul attack. And if he encountered a peerless expert who was not afraid of soul attacks, Murong Yu would have problems protecting himself, let alone killing the other party. In fact, the foundation of the of Ice sect was still not enough. Although it was a pinnacle force, there were still too few top experts. There were less than 109th stage chaotic ancestor saint. As for the high-level chaotic ancestor saints, they were at most 7th stage. Most of them were middle, 4th, or 5th stage chaotic ancestor saint. This also proved how difficult it was to break through to the chaotic ancestor saint realm. Without collecting the spoils, Murong Yu and Yin Gaohan entered the mysterious realm of mysterious frost at the same time. Under the cooperation of the two, none of the 10,000 peerless experts of the of Ice sect who entered the mysterious realm of mysterious frost escaped. Total annihilation. At this point, except for a few peerless experts who were guarding their base, almost all of the peerless experts of the of Ice sect were dead, and there were at most 100 or 200 people guarding their base, which was equivalent to a large force. In just a few days, the pinnacle force of the of Ice sect fell and became a large force. Moreover, Murong Yu did not intend to let them go. He believed that in a few days, the of Ice sect would be completely removed from the holy world. And all this was because the of Ice sect was audacious and blind to want to kill the Seamless sect's disciples. This was the result of provoking the Seamless sect. Chapter 1608. Haha, I won't make a loss this time. After collecting the spoils, Murong Yu couldn't help but laugh out loud. This time, they had killed 30,000 chaotic ancestor sages. Although not all of them had chaotic ancestor sages, even if only 1/3 of them had chaotic ancestor sages, it was still 10,000 chaotic ancestor sages. Even after deducting some of the destroyed chaotic ancestor sages, Murong Yu had about 10,000 chaotic ancestor sages. Moreover, there were also valuable treasures in the spatial treasures of these unparalleled experts. Added together, they were even more valuable than 10,000 chaotic ancestor sages. One must know that Murong Yu had at most used 10,000 chaotic ancestor sages to set up the formation. Just these things that he had obtained now had already surpassed the value of those chaotic ancestor sages. Moreover, Murong Yu's soul had broken through from first heaven of 5 stars to second heaven of 5 stars. Moreover, after devouring 20,000 chaotic ancestor sages' soul fragments, Murong Yu's soul had already reached the peak of second heaven of 5 stars and was only one step away from breaking through to third heaven of 5 stars. Devouring the souls of experts could accelerate Murong Yu's soul realm breakthrough. However, only unparalleled experts in chaotic ancestor sages' realm had this effect now. Moreover, if there were not many of them, the effect would not be obvious. Murong Yu felt that if there were a few thousand more unparalleled expert souls, he could break through to third heaven of 5 stars. However, where could so many unparalleled experts be killed by him? Even if there were so many unparalleled experts, there would not be such an opportunity like today. It was a complete massacre. Wanting to break through to 9-star level of Soul Realm was really a long way to go. In fact, it was also because Murong Yu had merged with the Soul-Devouring Pearl previously. If not for the Soul-Devouring Pearl's ability to devour souls, Murong Yu would not be able to devour these soul fragments at all. Naturally, it would be even more difficult for his soul to break through. This time, Murong Yu contributed the most. Therefore, Zhong Mingji and the rest did not want these spoils of war. They only took some pills, saint veins, and other treasures that could replenish their strength. Murong Yu was not pretentious. He had a huge shengzhen waiting for him to raise. Thus, in line with the principle that no matter how small a mosquito was, it was still meat. He didn't refuse any of them and took them all. Go. Annihilate the Church of Ice in one fell swoop. Raid his house. Huyen Yinghao laughed heartily. He was the first to soar into the air, and flew in the direction of the sect of ice. In less than a day, Murong Yu and his party appeared outside the Church of Ice. This is the Ice Sect. Murong Yu had a puzzled look on his face when he saw the large faction with only a handful of people. Zhong Mingji and the others were speechless. There were tens of thousands of primal chaos ancestral saints at their peak strength. If the disciples of other realms were included, there would be at least a few 100 million people. Holy lands like True Martial Temple had at least billions of disciples, or even tens of billions. However, there were very few top experts. The Church of Ice in front of him, on the other hand, was only a couple of big cats and little kittens, definitely less than 1,000 people. Moreover, these people weren't very strong. They don't seem to be disciples of the Church of Ice? Li Xinyan asked curiously. Immediately, Murong Yu and the others in the void looked down. These hundreds of people who were shuttling back and forth in the Church of Ice all exuded different auras. However, none of them had the aura of cultivating the ice cultivation method of the Church of Ice. All the disciples of the Church of Ice cultivated the cultivation method of the Church of Ice. Therefore, the aura exuding from each of them was the same, ice. Moreover, apart from not exuding the power of ice, these people's clothes were not uniform. Their strength was uneven, and the highest was only an Empyrean saint. At this moment, they were constantly shuttling back and forth in the Church of Ice, as if looking for something. The Church of Ice was in a mess. Could it be that the people of the Church of Ice have all escaped? Shima Ningming frowned slightly and said with some uncertainty. Escaped. Murong Yu and the others were taken aback, and then they all laughed. Shima Ningming's guess was very likely. Because they had almost killed the top experts of the Church of Ice in the mysterious Frost secret realm. Those peerless experts must have left soul jade slips in the Church of Ice. And after discovering that those people had all fallen, wouldn't the disciples of the Church of Ice be scared witless? Since the 20 to 30,000 experts had been killed, the rest of them would be killed as well. Even if those people didn't come to kill them. But the Church of Ice used to be domineering and had many enemies. Knowing that the Church of Ice had fallen overnight, their enemies would definitely hit them when they were down and take the opportunity to wipe them out in one fell swoop. Naturally, they wouldn't wait for death here, so they could only choose to escape. Sure enough, their guess was soon confirmed. When they arrived, the people shuttling back and forth in the Church of Ice gave them the answer. A few days ago, the people of the Church of Ice had indeed escaped. One by one, they panicked. It was because they knew that the people of the Church of Ice had escaped that they dared to enter here to plunder treasures. However, what made them depressed was that the Church of Ice didn't even leave behind a single elixir except for some buildings. Shameless. Truly shameless. How dare they take away all our treasures? Huyen Yinghao roared with righteous indignation, his face full of displeasure. The hundreds of people looked at the furious Huyen Yinghao in disbelief. Those things originally belonged to the Church of Ice, so it was normal for them to take them away. How did they become this big black man's treasures? How despicable! If we knew, we would have hurried over. Wu Xinshui also looked depressed. That might not be the case. Murong Yu chuckled as he looked ahead, his eyes flickering with light. Little junior brother, what did you find? Could it be that the Church of Ice still has a hidden treasure vault? He scanned with his divine telekinesis. The treasure vault of the Church of Ice had long been emptied, not even a single elixir was left. Those people of the Church of Ice were too despicable and straightforward. Murong-yu nodded, took a step, and disappeared on the spot. When he reappeared, he was already in front of a cliff at the back of the Church of Ice. "Little junior brother, is there some kind of mystery here?" Hu Yanning-hao and the others looked at the incomparably smooth stone wall, confused. In their view, it was just a stone wall without any mechanism or restriction. Even the expert on the saint rankings, Yin Gaohan, didn't notice it. Murong-yu had a smile on his face, so it was normal that Yin Gaohan and the others didn't notice it. He almost didn't notice that there was another mystery in front of the cliff. When he arrived at the Church of Ice, Murong-yu's enormous divine telekinesis enveloped the entire Church of Ice. If it weren't for the sudden tremor in the space here, he wouldn't have noticed that something was amiss. After some inspection, he found that the void in front of the cliff was a little different. Although the faint fluctuations were similar to the surroundings, it still felt a little out of place with the surrounding space. "Break for me!" Murong-yu roared in his heart, and directly tore the void in front of him. Rumble, the space was torn apart, and then a hole the size of an ordinary person appeared in the sight of Murong-yu and the others. "There really is a mystery here? What kind of formation is this?" Hu Yanning-hao and the others were astonished. Murong-yu shook his head. "This isn't a formation, but the pinnacle of the law of space. Using the power of space, this place is completely hidden. If it weren't for my understanding of the law of space, I wouldn't have discovered this place at all." In fact, Murong-yu was being modest. If it weren't for his mastery of the law of space, he wouldn't have discovered the anomaly here. However, if the Church of Ice had such an expert, then why didn't the other party display his might before? Could it be the leader of the Church of Ice? This thought suddenly flashed through Murong-yu's mind, and then he was taken aback. "Senior brother, did we kill the leader of the Church of Ice?" "The leader of the Church of Ice?" Everyone was taken aback. They had killed a lot of people, so they didn't know if the leader of the Church of Ice was inside. Or rather, even if the leader of the Church of Ice was inside, they wouldn't know. However, Murong-yu had a feeling that perhaps the Church of Ice hadn't been killed yet. Otherwise, who would have the courage to empty the treasury of the Church of Ice? If it weren't for the leader of the Church of Ice, the Church of Ice wouldn't have evacuated in just a few days. That's right, evacuate, not flee. So many peerless experts have been killed. If they continue to cause trouble, we'll just kill them. What do we have to fear? Hu Yanning-hao said indifferently. At the same time, he took a step forward and was about to rush into the cave entrance. However, he was stopped by Murong-yu. Hu Yanning-hao looked at Murong-yu with some confusion. The cave entrance was wide open, and he didn't sense any formation, restriction, or the like at all. Murong-yu shook his head, took out a low-grade Chaos Ancestral artifact, and threw it in. Chi. The Chaos Ancestral artifact was less than 10 feet into the cave entrance when a ball of dazzling white light suddenly burst out of the cave. In less than an instant, the Chaos Ancestral artifact was crushed by the white light. In the end, not even dregs were left. Everyone sucked in a breath of cold air, including Yin Gaohan. And Hu Yanning-hao was so scared that he broke out in a cold sweat. Although he was a high-level Chaos Ancestor Saint, his physical body was definitely not comparable to the Chaos Ancestral artifact. Even if he had the strength to defend himself, how long could he last? Moreover, what exactly were those white lights? Hu Yanning-hao had a feeling that these white lights weren't as simple as they seemed. Suddenly, everyone felt a chill run down their backs and looked at each other in dismay. Murong-yu also frowned slightly because he felt that those white lights didn't seem to be formations or restrictions. If they were formations or restrictions, he wouldn't be afraid. However, if they weren't, then Murong-yu wouldn't dare to rashly enter. Moreover, Murong-yu also felt that this cave didn't seem to be the treasury of the Church of Ice. It might not even be the handiwork of the Church of Ice. Chapter 1609. Easily Annihilating a Chaos Ancestral Artifact. This had already exceeded the capabilities of the primal chaos ancestral saints and even experts on the saint rankings. It was at least the capabilities of a supremacy. Furthermore, this was only a fleeting display of power. Murong Yu was even certain that this wasn't the final display of power. Moreover, what other dangers were there in this strange cave? But no one knew. If not for Murong Yu throwing in a chaos ancestral artifact, he wouldn't even have sensed the danger in the cave. Fortunately, Murong Yu was cautious by nature. If he had entered rashly, he would have been killed immediately. Looking at this strange cave, Zhong Mingji and the others were silent. However, Hu Yaninghao's heart was still thumping vigorously. He still had a lingering fear in his heart. This strange cave was so deep that the bottom couldn't be seen. From afar, it looked like the bloody mouth of an ancient ferocious beast. The more one looked at it, the more terrifying it was. This is definitely not the work of the Ice Snow Cult. Could it be the work of a supremacy? Lu Xiankai frowned slightly and said hesitantly, "So what if it's the work of a supremacy? With our current strength, we don't have the ability to get to the bottom of it. 13th junior brother, are you confident?" Zhong Mingji looked at Yin Gaohan. Yin Gaohan nodded. He didn't know if it was because he was the strongest, but he felt an intense aura of death from this cave. He knew that if he entered rashly, his fate would be no different from that chaos ancestral artifact. What a pity! Everyone shook their heads. Even Murong Yu was no exception. If this place was the work of a supremacy, there might be various treasures left behind by a supremacy. However, even if there were treasures, it had nothing to do with them if they lost their lives. Let's go back first. Murong Yu pondered for a moment and suggested. After pondering for a moment, Murong Yu also didn't have any confidence, so he decided not to take the risk. Thus, everyone turned around and was about to leave. However, right at this moment, a sudden change occurred. Swoosh! The inexplicable cave, which was originally calm and tranquil, suddenly burst into white light. A glaring light shot out from the cave and directly attacked Murong Yu and the others. They actually wanted to kill Murong Yu and the others. Murong Yu was the last to react, as well as the first to do so. The first thing he did was to travel through the void and leave this place. But at this moment, he suddenly paused and slammed his palm into the cave. He wanted to shatter the white light. However, what shocked Murong Yu was that before the power of his slap could reach the white light, it had already disappeared without a trace. In the blink of an eye, the white light exploded and wrapped around Murong Yu before he could react. Then, with a swish sound, the white light dragged Murong Yu and disappeared into the depths of the unknown cave. After Murong Yu disappeared, the cave that looked like the bloody mouth of an ancient beast also disappeared into thin air. At this moment, Zhong Mingji and the others finally reacted. Junior brother. Yin Gaohan was the strongest and was the first to react. He exclaimed and reached out his hand to grab Murong Yu. However, Murong Yu had already disappeared. However, he only managed to grab onto the stone wall of the cliff. The terrifying power erupted, and the entire incomparably tall stone wall burst open with a boom sound. It was shaken into pieces by the incomparably violent power. As for the cave that had appeared before, it was nowhere to be seen. It was as if it had never appeared before. Everyone was shocked and used their divine consciousness to search. In fact, each and every one of them unleashed a powerful force that shattered the void and the earth millions of times over. However, they still couldn't find the cave or Murong Yu. If Murong Yu hadn't disappeared before their eyes, they would have thought that they were hallucinating. What do we do? Everyone looked at Zhong Mingji with a worried and shocked expression. Don't panic. Although junior brother was taken away, his soul jade slip didn't shatter. Therefore, he should be fine for now. Although Zhong Mingji wasn't the strongest, his leadership ability was definitely the best. Therefore, he was the calmest among everyone present. On the other hand, Yin Gaohan, who was the strongest, was brimming with killing intent as guilt flashed across the depths of his eyes. He was able to merge with the heart of ice and snow because of Murong Yu's ability. It was Murong Yu who made him who he was. However, Murong Yu was taken away right in front of him, an expert on the saint rankings. This made him extremely angry and guilty. 13th junior brother, you don't have to blame yourself. That person's methods are strange. I'm afraid he's a sovereign. The difference between us and a sovereign is too big. Perhaps this is a great opportunity for junior brother. Zhong Mingji comforted. Eldest senior brother, what should we do? Should we report this to fourth senior brother and master? Wu Xinshui said anxiously, clearly not calm. Let's observe the situation first. If there's still no news of junior brother in a few days, it won't be too late to report this to master. This cave was too strange. Zhong Mingji and the others suspected that it was a sovereign. If it was really a sovereign, then even Yu Yangjiao would be helpless. He could only inform the sect master of the Seamless Society. Thus, a group of 16 people set up camp here and began to search the surroundings. However, there was still no trace of Murong Yu. At the same time, the news of the Seamless Society destroying the Ice Snow sect had spread throughout the Holy World. For a moment, it shocked the entire Holy Land. All along, the Seamless Society had given people the impression of being mysterious. This was because there were very few Seamless Society disciples, and none of them were flashy people who liked to be in the limelight. Most people even knew that there was a Seamless Society in the 10 Great Holy Land. However, they did not know who the Seamless Society disciples were. Thus, everyone in the Holy World felt that the Seamless Society was just SOSO. It had the name of a Holy Land, but it was not a Holy Land. It could be said that there were not many people in the Holy World who held the Seamless Society in awe. This was because they felt that the Seamless Society was just ordinary. In most people's hearts, the Seamless Society was even inferior to the Heaven-suppressing sect and the Ice Snow sect. It was because of this that the Ice Snow sect wanted to exterminate the Seamless Society, which ultimately led to their own destruction. Because the Seamless Society was low-key and mysterious, the only person that left an impression on everyone was Murong Yu. Moreover, Murong Yu's cultivation realm was not high. This made the world even more think that the Seamless Society was just SOSO. However, when the news spread that a dozen or so disciples of the Infernal Sect had annihilated 30 to 40,000 peerless experts in one fell swoop, the entire world was stunned. They finally understood that a holy land was a holy land, and peak strength was only peak strength. Even if there were only a dozen or so people in a holy land, no matter how weak a holy land was, it was still not something a peak strength could contend against. A dozen or so people annihilating 30 to 40,000 peerless experts. Almost everyone who knew of this was shocked. Especially those peak strength experts, they were so shocked that they could not speak. None of these peak strength experts did not want to become a holy land, or pull down the original holy lands like the Seamless Society and replace them. Only now did they realize how shallow, superficial, and overestimating their own capabilities were. If the 10 Seamless Society members were already like this, then how powerful were the holy lands like the true martial Holy Pill sect, which had billions or tens of billions of experts, not to mention how shocked these forces were and how they restrained their ambitions. Let's just talk about Murong Yu. After being wrapped up by the white light, Murong Yu's eyes were so dazzled by the white light that he could not open them. At the same time, he felt himself moving. However, after a breath's time, he found his feet on the ground again. At this time, the dazzling white light also disappeared without a trace. Thus, Murong Yu was finally able to clearly see where he was. This was a space that was not very big, about a mile in radius. The main hall was completely empty. There was nothing there at all. Except for the skeleton at the end of the space. What kind of skeleton was this? The skull was shattered, and the bones in the body were also broken inch by inch. Some bones were even broken or missing some bones. Obviously, this person must have died because of serious injuries. However, this did not shock Morongyu. With his current strength, he could easily crush a peak ancestral saint's bones with a single slap. It was normal for this skeleton to be injured like this. What surprised Morongyu was that this skeleton was like the skeleton of a mortal after death. There was no luster between the bones, and they were rough and dim. This was clearly the bone of a mortal after death. However, Morongyu became vigilant in his heart. This was the holy world. Where would the bones of a mortal come from? It was obvious that this person had been killed by his enemy. Even the spirituality of his bones had been destroyed. It was precisely because of this that the skeleton looked like a mortal's corpse. Kacha! Kacha! Under Morongyu's gaze, the skeleton suddenly moved. Then, under Morongyu's horrified gaze, the skeleton stood up like a human and even slowly walked towards Morongyu. Morongyu was shocked and involuntarily took a step back. His eyes were filled with horror. He was not shocked by the skeleton's sudden resurrection. It was not like he had not seen such resurrection before, so how could it scare him? The reason why he was shocked was because the aura of this skeleton was too strong. It was beyond anyone he had seen before. It was at least an existence of the supreme stage. A supreme stage expert. Morongyu's heart sank. With a thought, he wanted to enter Hichu Luoshu and escape. But at this moment, the skeleton spoke and made a move. Haha, kid, you want to leave after entering the Sun Monarch's territory? At the same time, the skeleton stretched out its incomplete hand, which only had 3 sections of finger bones left. It slowly reached out to grab Morongyu. It was extremely slow as a snail. However, Morongyu's expression changed again and again. An incomparably terrifying force had already imprisoned him. Chapter 16:10. Wait, you're a supreme being? Why are you attacking me, a mere sage king? Although Morongyu was imprisoned, he still had the ability to speak. Thus, he asked in a cold voice with a hint of doubt. Morongyu didn't have a good impression of this white skeleton. Even if the other party was a supreme being, if he wanted to kill him, he was his enemy. It would be strange if he had a good impression of him. Thus, Morongyu's voice didn't have the slightest bit of respect. If it was anyone else, they wouldn't be able to respect someone who wanted to kill them. Supreme being? What's that? The white skeleton stood on the spot. Although there was no flesh and blood, his expression couldn't be seen. But this fellow seemed to be puzzled and deep in thought. However, his words made Morongyu speechless. Supreme being? What was that? Supreme beings were the strongest existences in the holy world other than the rulers. Which sage with some knowledge didn't know? This skeleton was so powerful, it couldn't be someone who didn't know. Therefore, a thought immediately surfaced in Morongyu's mind. This guy is definitely acting tough. I remember now. Supreme beings are the so-called super experts in your holy world, right? Ant-like existences. Not to mention trash like supreme beings, I can even kill a realm lord with one breath. After thinking for a while, the white skeleton seemed to have thought of something and said in a disdainful tone. Morongyu was stunned again. Supreme beings were ant-like existences? Trash? One had to know that there were only 10 supreme beings in the entire holy world. Who dared to say that supreme beings were ants? Of course, it wasn't that there weren't people who dared to say that. That person was the ruler. But was this Sun Monarch a ruler? But what was a realm lord? Morongyu was stunned. Sometimes he felt that the Sun Monarch was pretending, but sometimes he didn't feel like he was pretending. This fellow's tone was indeed very disdainful, as if he looked down on those supreme beings. Those supreme beings were really trash in his eyes. Your holy world. Suddenly, Morongyu caught the Sun Monarch's words and became even more puzzled. Morongyu knew that there were many worlds in the endless primal chaos. This was because he had walked step by step from the mortal world to the saint's world. However, what did your saint's world mean? Could there be other sacred worlds in the endless primal chaos? Or were those worlds not called saints' worlds? Thinking of this, Morong thought of some clues he had obtained in the past. It seemed that the Downlord of the Infernal Society and the others were fighting in the outer realm. Combining all these clues together, an unknown door gradually opened in front of Morong. However, although he guessed that there was another world, it was only a guess. Furthermore, he had no idea what exactly was going on. However, he had a feeling that the Sun Monarch wasn't from the Holy World. But all of this was just his guess. Thus he asked, "Sun Monarch, are you not from the Saints' world?" The Sun Monarch laughed and said, "Kid, you are quite knowledgeable. You know that I, the Sun Monarch, am not from your trash world." Trash world? Hearing the Sun Monarch's words, Morong couldn't help but feel a little angry. Since our world is trash, why are you still here? Furthermore, you were beaten half to death by others? Don't tell me that you were originally like this. The Sun Monarch was stunned and then became furious. If it wasn't for those bastards who plotted against me, would I have ended up like this? If it wasn't for this world being too trash, I would have recovered my peak strength long ago. If it wasn't for this world being too trash, why would I be trapped here and unable to leave? Morong's words seemed to have triggered some bad memories in the Sun Monarch's mind. Thus, this guy started cursing. He didn't have the demeanor of an expert at all. He was just like a scoundrel in the marketplace. However, the Sun Monarch's words told Morong that the Saints' world wasn't the only world in this world. Sun Monarch, other than the Saints' world, how many other worlds are there in the endless primal chaos? And those worlds are of a higher level than the Saints' world? Morong continued to ask. A frog at the bottom of a well. The Sun Monarch calmed down and only said one sentence in disdain. He didn't answer Morong's question. Morong felt depressed. He was indeed a frog at the bottom of a well. However, this was only temporary. After all, he was only a sage ruler now. He didn't even have the qualifications to come into contact with the peak level of the Saints' world, let alone other worlds. However, even so, he was still very shocked. He had a feeling that the sovereigns might not be the strongest existence. Of course, the sovereigns had never been the strongest because there was still the chaos controller above them. However, Morong now felt that there seemed to be a realm between the sovereigns and the chaos controller. However, this was a story for another time. Although Morong was curious, he didn't continue to ask questions. After all, the Sun Monarch wasn't a good person. It was useless to ask. Moreover, even if he knew, it wouldn't be too beneficial to him. The more he knew, the greater the pressure. Although Morong wouldn't bite off more than he could chew. Sun Monarch, what realm were you when you were alive? Were you stronger than the sovereigns? Morong asked, and his expression relaxed. However, secretly, he was thinking of all kinds of ways to escape from this place. However, the Sun Monarch was too strong and directly imprisoned him in this void. Hichu Luoshu couldn't enter, and he couldn't even use the origin energy of the God world to teleport back. Sovereigns. I can kill a large number of them with one breath, the Sun Monarch said disdainfully. At the same time, those hollow eyes looked at Morong, and Morong felt a chill in his heart. This guy was going to attack. As expected, kid, you talk too much nonsense. Even if you know, it won't do you any good. Be obedient and let me eat your flesh. The Sun Monarch smiled maliciously and continued to grab Morong. The Sun Monarch's strength was extremely strong, and it exceeded Morong's imagination. However, his enemy was even stronger and directly destroyed his physical body. Even if he still had a trace of his soul, it could be destroyed at any time. The most terrifying thing was his enemy's methods. Even if countless eras had passed, even if the Sun Monarch was constantly recovering his physical body. However, his bones still gradually lost their luster and strength. As for his physical body, he couldn't recover it at all. after countless eras, he used the power of his soul to build many teleportation circles in the holy world. Countless sages used the teleportation circles themselves or were captured by the Sun Monarch. These people's fates were all the same. They were directly eaten by the Sun Monarch. Yes, directly eaten, just like a ferocious beast eating a human. However, what made the Sun Monarch despair was that even if he continuously ate sages, and even a few supremes at the beginning, he couldn't recover his physical body. He couldn't even slow down the time his bones gradually became ordinary. Otherwise, with the Sun Monarch's strength, his bones would definitely be much stronger than a sovereign's. "You want to eat me? Why me?" Murong-Yu wasn't surprised at all. He had already guessed the Sun Monarch's plan when he saw him. However, what made him curious was that his cultivation level was the weakest among the people in the Infernal Society. Wasn't it said that the higher one's cultivation level, the more nourishing it was for the Sun Monarch? Murong-Yu wasn't resentful. He was just curious. "Why you? Kid, your physique is very strong. Your physical body is even more attractive to me than the kid with the highest cultivation level. If you eat me, I might be able to recover to my peak." The Sun Monarch laughed loudly. Originally, his target was Yin Gaohan. However, just as he was about to capture Yin Gaohan, he discovered Murong-Yu. Therefore, he didn't hesitate to capture Murong-Yu. Of course, he was limited by his current strength. Otherwise, he definitely wouldn't have let Yin Gaohan and the others go. At the beginning, the Sun Monarch was a little disappointed when he saw that Murong-Yu was only a sage ruler. However, the more he saw, the more he felt that Murong-Yu wasn't simple. Although he didn't know what kind of physique Murong-Yu had, he had a feeling that Murong-Yu's physical body would give him a surprise. Therefore, he talked so much nonsense to Murong-Yu. However, he couldn't wait any longer. He couldn't wait to enjoy Murong-Yu's physical body. If he didn't recover soon, the Sun Monarch would be annihilated in this nameless small world. This was something that the Sun Monarch didn't want to face. Moreover, he wanted to take revenge. Therefore, he grabbed Murong-Yu and was about to bite Murong-Yu. "Am I really going to be eaten alive by this disgusting thing?" At the thought of being eaten alive, Murong-Yu couldn't help but feel a chill in his heart as goosebumps appeared all over his body. "That's the only way." A cold light flashed across Murong-Yu's eyes. From the beginning, Murong-Yu had purposely talked nonsense with the Sun Monarch. On one hand, he was really curious. On the other hand, he wanted to stall for time. During this process, he continued to ponder. Millions of methods flashed through his mind. In the end, he realized that the only thing that worked was a soul attack. His physical body and cultivation were sealed, but Murong-Yu's soul wasn't sealed. Maybe the Sun Monarch didn't want to seal Murong-Yu's soul. Or maybe he didn't fear Murong-Yu's soul attack at all. However, no matter what the situation was, if Murong-Yu didn't want to die, he could only use a soul attack. Whether he lived or died depended on this. Spiritual slash. Just as the Sun Monarch was about to bite him, Murong-Yu finally made his move. He used the spiritual slash, which was the strongest single target attack he had prepared, to slash at the Sun Monarch's head. It couldn't be helped. Murong-Yu hadn't discovered the Sun Monarch's soul at all. After thinking about it, only his head could contain his soul. Chapter 16:11. The Sun Sovereign's body was only made of pale white bones. There was no flesh or blood, and Murong-Yu couldn't find his soul either. However, that guy was able to speak directly and not through voice transmission. Also, the Sun Monarch said that he wasn't dead. Therefore, Murong-Yu chose to fight the Sun Monarch directly. He wasn't someone who would sit and wait for death. It would be best if he could kill the Sun Monarch. If he couldn't, at least he could escape. Whoosh! Just as Murong-Yu used his soul attack, the Sun Monarch's heart trembled. An extremely strong aura of death instantly shrouded his heart, if he still had the heart. Especially Dell's soul, which was attached to the bones, trembled violently from the impact. It was the trembling of death. "Kid, you're courting death." The Sun Monarch was the first to react. Murong Yu must have launched his strongest attack against him. The Sun Monarch was extremely confident in his own strength. Therefore, he immediately knew that Murong Yu was using a soul attack. This was because he had sealed Murong Yu's entire body except for his soul. In fact, the Sun Monarch didn't even consider that Murong Yu had 10 soul saints. The Sun Monarch reacted extremely quickly. He exerted strength in his hand and was about to crush Murong Yu. However, Murong Yu's soul attack, which he had been planning for a long time, was faster than him. Just as the Sun Monarch's hand was about to explode with power to crush Murong Yu's soul attack had already slashed the Sun Monarch's soul fiercely. Poof! The sound of a soul shattering could even be heard. Soul fragments kept falling out of the Sun Monarch's skull. At the same time, the Sun Monarch let out an extremely shrill scream. Deng deng deng! In an instant, the Sun Monarch retreated due to the intense pain because his soul had been shattered. The hand that was grabbing Murong Yu also loosened. The most frightening thing was that, perhaps due to the attack on his soul, a crack had appeared in the seal imprisoning Murong Yu. Whoosh! Without any hesitation, Murong Yu rushed into Hichu Luoshu. Then, he was about to teleport away from this damned place. However, just as he was about to teleport away, he glanced at the Sun Monarch. At this moment, the Sun Monarch held his head with both hands and let out miserable shrieks. Furious roars rang out continuously. He didn't even attack Murong Yu. Murong Yu's heart skipped a beat. With a single thought, the He-Tu and the Luo-Shu transformed into an extremely tiny speck of power. Following the spatial fluctuations caused by the attack, it slowly left the Sun Sovereign. Yes, Murong Yu did not leave this damned place. Murong Yu's motto in life was that if people didn't offend him, he wouldn't offend them. If people offended him, he would pay them back double. The Sun Sovereign wanted to eat him. This was an irreconcilable feud. How could Murong Yu let this guy go? Didn't you want to kill me? Since that's the case, I'll kill you. If the Sun Monarch was extremely powerful, Murong Yu would definitely leave this place as soon as he had the chance to escape. However, that unexpected glance made him stay. It seemed like the Sun Monarch was not as powerful as he had imagined. Time accelerated. Murong Yu sat down cross-legged and ignited his Chaos Saint Meridian to accelerate time to the limit. The Sun Monarch's seal had not been completely broken. If he wanted to kill the Sun Monarch, Murong Yu had to recover to his peak strength. The Sun Monarch seemed to be even more powerful than a ruler. However, it seemed like the sun had set in the west and was at the end of the road. Although the seal was extremely intricate, it was not very powerful. Under Murong Yu's charge, it did not take long for him to break through the seal. Of course, this was referring to the time in the Holy World. Under the time acceleration, Murong Yu took an entire era to break through the seal. One could only imagine how intricate the Sun Monarch's seal was. Even without powerful strength, Murong Yu would not be able to break through it quickly. Murong Yu did not know how powerful a ruler was. However, he had a feeling that the Sun Monarch was not bragging. What he said seemed to be true. Otherwise, why would the seal be so powerful even if it did not have much power? Ah, little bastard, if you fall into my hands again, I will definitely eat you alive. When Murong Yu looked at the Sun Monarch through the Hichu Luoshu, the Sun Monarch was still roaring furiously. He was gritting his teeth. He was furious and regretful at the same time. He had known that he would eat Murong Yu alive when he captured him. However, he had been so smug that he had talked nonsense for so long. In the end, Murong Yu had managed to escape. Even the cooked duck had flown away. Moreover, Murong Yu's soul attack had almost caused his soul to collapse. He's still not dead? Seeing that the Sun Monarch's aura was weaker than before, but he was still lively, Murong Yu could not help but be surprised. His previous attack had clearly shattered the Sun Monarch's soul in his head. Logically speaking, even if the Sun Monarch was not dead, he should have been severely injured. However, in reality, he was not dead. In fact, he was still very lively and energetic. Little bastard, you are actually a soul saint. You actually caught me off guard. Luckily, although my soul is a remnant soul, it is still very strong. However, it has been condensed into all the bones in my body. If you want to destroy my soul, you will have to destroy my entire soul. The Sun Monarch thought that Murongyu had escaped. He was furious, but he felt lucky as he muttered to himself. In the Hichu Luoshu, Murongyu was wondering why this guy was not killed. Just as he was thinking of a way to kill the Sun Monarch had exposed his weakness to Murongyu. He had sent himself to death. Murongyu was overjoyed. However, he could not help but admire the Sun Monarch. Souls usually could only exist in the soul space, but the Sun Monarch had actually condensed his soul into his bones. In this way, if an ignorant soul saint were to attack his soul space, it would be useless. On the other hand, the Sun Monarch seized the opportunity to kill his opponent. After preparing for a while, Murongyu raised his soul power to the peak and attacked again. This time, it was not the Soul Slash. The Soul Slash was only a single target attack. It was impossible to shatter the Sun Monarch's soul in all his bones. This was because Murongyu had used a group attack skill, Soul Storm. The Sun Monarch was cursing when suddenly, an even stronger aura of death shrouded his heart. Instantly, the Sun Monarch was shocked. However, his reaction speed was extremely fast. He reacted immediately. His entire body exploded with flames that resembled the sun's fire and covered his entire body. In just an instant, the entire space was covered by the terrifying sun's fire. Sizzling noises could be heard as the void was incinerated by the scorching flames. Boom! Hichu Luoshu was instantly enveloped by the terrifying heat. Immediately, the overflowing damage hit Murongyu, causing his blood to churn and his breathing to become chaotic. What terrifying heat! Murongyu was shocked. He immediately took out all sorts of treasures to protect his body. At the same time, he did not stop attacking. However, although the Grand Sun primordial fire was terrifying, it could not block the Soul Slash. In other words, it could not block the full power of the attack. This was because a portion of his soul power was still burned. Poof! The Sun Monarch let out a shrill scream again. This time, because it was a large area attack, every bone in his body was taken care of by Murongyu. Therefore, the soul that he had condensed in all his bones was immediately torn apart by Murongyu's violent Soul Slash. However, because of the Grand Sun primordial fire, it was not completely torn apart. However, Murongyu did not plan to only attack once. Streaks of soul power were continuously released. In less than a breath's time, Murongyu had already used the Soul Storm more than 1,000 times. Whoosh! The Sun Monarch was indeed powerful. He might even be more powerful than a ruler. However, he was already past his prime. He was already in a state of near death. If Murongyu was not a soul sage, it would not be very possible for him to kill him. However, Murongyu was a soul sage. After a round of attacks, the Sun Monarch finally let out a roar of anger. His entire soul had been crushed. When his soul died, the Grand Sun primordial fire that he had released also disappeared into thin air. However, the terrifyingly high temperature was still scorching the void and incinerating it. Even Murongyu was afraid of the terrifying heat. He stayed in Hichu Luoshu for half a month before he dared to come out. That was because, even with his current strength, he would not be able to withstand the high temperature from before and would be directly melted away. However, although the Grand Sun primordial fire was terrifying, it could not do anything to Hichu Luoshu. With the help of various treasures, Murongyu had a hard time resisting the Grand Sun Monarch fire in Hichu Luoshu, but in the end, he succeeded. Where did this Sun Monarch come from? Isn't the Grand Sun primordial fire too terrifying? and this is because his power has greatly decreased, and his power is not even a billionth of his peak. Otherwise, I would have been killed by the overflowing damage. Morong Yu was shocked. Morong Yu was not worried about Hichu Luoshu. No matter how powerful the Grand Sun primordial fire was, it would not be able to cause any damage to Hichu Luoshu. However, due to Morong Yu's power, Hichu Luoshu could only absorb a portion of the Grand Sun primordial fire's power. Any power that exceeded its limit would be transferred to Morong Yu. Devour the Sun Monarch's soul fragment first. This guy is said to have surpassed a ruler. His soul must contain a terrifying amount of power. Even the remnant soul of the heavenly demoness could raise my cultivation by 2 minor realms. I wonder if the Sun Monarch's remnant soul can help my soul break through again? Or maybe break through 2 major realms and reach the 7 stars realm. Chapter 16:12. Was this remnant soul even 1/1000th of the Sun Monarch's peak? When Morong Yu was devouring the Sun Monarch's soul, he realized how rare the Sun Monarch's soul was. However, the Sun Monarch was still the Sun Monarch. His soul was too powerful and pure. Even a trace of his soul contained more power than the black-clothed heavenly demoness. The stronger one would be in all aspects. This included the body and soul. For a powerhouse like the Sun Monarch, even if he didn't temper his body and soul, when he was at his peak, even if he stood there and allowed Morong Yu to attack him, Morong Yu wouldn't be able to kill him. Therefore, when Morong Yu refined the Sun Monarch's soul fragment, Morong Yu's soul, which had just broken through to 5-star second firmament not long ago, broke through again. The Sun Monarch's soul might be very powerful, but this remnant soul was at the end of its road. It didn't affect Morong Yu's devouring speed at all. Therefore, Morong Yu's soul started its terrifying devouring. 5-star third firmament. 5-star fourth firmament. As time passed, Morong Yu's soul continued to improve. At the beginning, he didn't see the Sun Monarch's remnant soul being consumed, but his soul had already broken through 2 to 3 small realms. However, when Morong Yu's soul broke through to the formless 5th firmament, the Sun Monarch's remnant soul was also being consumed at a speed visible to the naked eye. However, the huge power still allowed Morong Yu's soul realm to improve rapidly. When it reached 5-star 9th firmament, Morong Yu's soul realm's improvement speed slowed down. However, the Sun Monarch's remnant soul still had about 2/5 of it. In other words, Morong Yu had only consumed 3/5 of the Sun Monarch's remnant soul when he broke through from 5-star second firmament to 5-star 9th firmament. 2/5 of the original soul's speed. It looks like I can break through to 6-star. Morong Yu thought calmly as he looked at his soul realm and the Sun Monarch's remnant soul slowly improving. However, a 5-star soul could already fight a low-level primal chaos ancestor. On the other hand, wouldn't a soul that had attained 6 stars be able to go head-on against a high-level primal chaos ancestral saint? Even Morong Yu couldn't help but feel excited when he thought about how his strength would soar overnight. However, even though he was excited, he still maintained his calm. If his soul failed to break through due to excitement, then it would be a tragedy. It was unknown how many days had passed. On this day, Morong Yu's soul spirit had already reached the peak of 5 stars. Now, he was only 1 step away from breaking through to 6-star. Morong Yu held his breath with rapt attention. After his body relaxed, he began to break through to the next realm. The realm of one's soul was the same as the realm of one's cultivation. One needed to break through to the next realm. He wouldn't be able to break through to the next realm naturally. However, Morong Yu had never given up on cultivating the 9 words mantra, battle skills, and cultivation technique. As his strength continued to increase, his mastery of the swordsman formula of the sovereign soul had also reached an extremely high level. Just like the chaotic celestial records, Morong Yu had already comprehended it to an extremely high level. Therefore, every time Morong Yu tried to break through to the next realm, it was like a hot knife through butter. Unless he reached the limit of the chaotic celestial records, then Murong Yu's realm would remain stagnant. He could only continue to comprehend the chaotic celestial records until he reached a deeper level. His comprehension of the swordsman formula had already reached an extremely high level. Murong Yu couldn't guarantee that he could break through to 7-star in one go. However, 6-star was still not a problem. The only problem now was whether there would be enough power for Murong Yu to devour in time. However, the remnant soul of the peak Sun Monarch should be enough. As expected, after a few attempts, Murong Yu's soul successfully broke through. From the peak of 5 stars to the level of 6 stars. After breaking through to the next realm, Murong Yu couldn't help but heave a sigh of relief. This was because the remnant soul of the Sun Monarch had been completely devoured the moment he broke through. If he had been slower by just a beat and didn't break through, this breakthrough would have failed. Murong Yu couldn't help but exclaim that he was lucky. However, although his soul had broken through, Murong Yu didn't immediately stop cultivating. After breaking through, he still needed to consolidate his realm. Otherwise, it would be very easy for his realm to drop. After using a few days to consolidate his soul realm, Murong Yu observed his soul. After breaking through, Murong Yu's soul didn't change much from before. His entire soul was still black, like endless chaos. However, it was more solid than before. It was almost materialized, almost no different from Murong Yu's original body. Sitting cross-legged on his soul sea, waves of terrifying soul pressure emanated from his body, suppressing the entire soul space. What a powerful soul pressure! Just this pressure alone, I'm afraid even mid-level chaotic ancestor sages would find it difficult to resist, right? Murong Yu chuckled, his eyes gleaming. Soul pressure was the same as one's aura. It was an intangible existence. A chaotic ancestor sage's pressure could kill a peak ancestor sage. These oppressive auras were usually emitted by their powerful strength. Soul pressure was even more terrifying than ordinary pressure, directly suppressing the soul. Once the soul was suppressed, it wouldn't matter how powerful the person was. With the current strength of my soul, a spiritual slash can definitely kill a high-level chaotic ancestor sage. Even if the other party has defense, he won't be able to escape from my annihilation. However, I wonder if I can kill a rank 9 chaotic ancestor sage? Murong Yu pondered. Murong Yu had encountered high-level chaotic ancestor sages. There were even rank 9 chaotic ancestor sages and sage ranking expert. However, he had never fought with a rank 9 chaotic ancestor sage. He didn't know how powerful a rank 9 chaotic ancestor sage was. However, he was certain that a rank 8 chaotic ancestor sage wouldn't be able to block his attack. In addition to this soul sea with a radius of 500 million miles, who in the entire holy world has a soul sea comparable to mine? Murong Yu chuckled, his face filled with satisfaction. Yes, after his soul broke through, his soul sea also broke through and reached a radius of 500 million miles. Such a soul sea might not even be as terrifying as the other soul sages who had reached the level of 9-star. The most terrifying thing was that the soul sea's soul power was full. It could be said that the current soul power could allow Murong Yu to unleash the soul storm endlessly without any exhaustion. Murong Yu stood up slowly and saw the Sun Monarch's dim bones when he opened his eyes. Thinking about how the Sun Monarch had almost eaten him, Murong Yu couldn't help but feel vile. Hence, he threw out a punch. Boom! The Sun Monarch was sent flying. However, what shocked Murong Yu was that although he didn't use his full strength, the punch still contained a lot of power. However, the Sun Monarch's bones were unharmed. He's still so powerful even in this state? A trace of surprise flashed across Murong Yu's eyes. Plop! At that moment, a small booklet that was shining with golden light fell from the Sun Monarch's body. Sun Sutra. The 4 golden words shone brightly, almost blinding Murong Yu's eyes. Could this be the Sun Monarch's cultivation technique? Murong Yu's eyes shone brightly. He had already reached out and grabbed the booklet. He had seen the Sun Primordial Fire that the Sun Monarch had unleashed. The Sun Primordial Fire was really powerful. After flipping through it casually, Murong Yu realized that it was indeed a cultivation technique. Although it couldn't be compared to the chaotic celestial records, it was more powerful than any cultivation technique that Murong Yu had seen before. What Murong Yu didn't know was that the Sun Sutra was indeed much more powerful than most cultivation techniques in the Holy World. It wasn't even a cultivation technique from the Holy World. It was the secret technique of the Sun Monarch's faction. The faction that the Sun Monarch belonged to was so powerful that Murong Yu couldn't imagine it. The reason why it was the majority was because the chaotic celestial records was one of the strongest and most powerful cultivation techniques in the Holy World. Moreover, no one could guarantee that there weren't any more powerful cultivation techniques in the Holy World. Although the Sun Sutra is powerful, it's useless to me. Murong Yu was a little depressed. This was a cultivation technique, not a battle technique. Murong Yu was allowed to train in battle technique. However, he could only cultivate the chaotic celestial record. This was the restriction of the chaotic celestial record. However, even though the main body is unable to cultivate, the clone is able to. Others can too. Murong Yu's clone was a golden dragon of the Dragon Clan. It had reached the level of a high-level chaotic ancestor sage when it was alive. Now, after the efforts of Murong Yu's clone, it had recovered to the level of a chaotic ancestor sage. However, in the Holy World, the Golden Dragon's highest achievement was only a high-level chaotic ancestor sage. Or it could enter the holy rankings and become an expert on the holy rankings. However, it was impossible for it to become a supreme. However, if it cultivated the Sun Sutra, it wouldn't be a big problem. After putting away the Sun Sutra, Murong Yu searched the area. However, he didn't find anything. There was only the Sun Sutra and the Sun Monarch's bones. I wonder how much power the Sun Monarch's bones contain? Looking at the Sun Monarch's bones, Murong Yu frowned. There was no light and it looked dim on the surface. However, if that was the case, how could it block Murong Yu's attack without being damaged? After muttering to himself for a moment, Murong Yu subconsciously threw the Sun Sovereign's skeleton into the primal chaos furnace. The next moment, the chaotic furnace trembled slightly and began refining. However, what shocked Murong Yu was that although the Sun Monarch's bones didn't look like much, they weren't refined. There's something strange about it. I wonder how much power it contains? Murong Yu's heart skipped a beat. He immediately sat down again and controlled the chaotic furnace to refine the bones. He didn't believe that he couldn't refine the bones of a Sun Monarch who had died so many years ago. Chapter 16:13. Murong Yu was trying his best to refine the Sun Monarch's skeleton. However, the more he refined, the more shocked Murong Yu became. That was because the Sun Monarch's skeleton was not damaged at all after several days. One had to know that the Sun Monarch's skeleton was probably not even a billionth of its peak power. Even so, Murong Yu could not refine it. Murong Yu estimated that the Sun Monarch's skeleton was probably comparable to a juggernaut. Of course, he did not know how strong a juggernaut was. However, he was sure that the Sun Monarch's skeleton was definitely comparable to some Supremes. Supremes were similar to Supremes, but if Murong Yu wanted to refine the Purple Light Sky Rotatower, it would definitely not be so difficult. While he was shocked, Murong Yu was also looking forward to it. He had been stuck at the peak of the Sage Ruler Realm for a long time. Although his soul had broken through repeatedly, and his strength was comparable to a high-level chaotic ancestor sage. However, Murong Yu's enemies were getting stronger and stronger. Now that a powerhouse on the Saint rankings had appeared, it was possible that even a supremacy stage powerhouse would make a move against him. Moreover, there was still a juggernaut above the Supremes. As long as these potential threats were not eliminated, Murong Yu would not be truly safe. In fact, Morong-yu wished that he could break through and become a chaos controller overnight. Only then could he completely control his own fate. The Sun Monarch skeleton was so powerful. Once he refined it, he did not know how much it would increase his cultivation level. However, he would definitely reach the Ancestor Sage realm. The stronger he was, the more benefits he would gain. Therefore, Morong-yu was not discouraged and continued to refine it. Time continued to pass, year after year. In the blink of an eye, 100 years had passed. On this day, a faint smile appeared on Morong-yu's face. After 100 years of hard work, the Sun Monarch's skeleton had finally loosened and started to be refined. Although it was only a trace, as long as there was a start, there was no need to be afraid that he could not refine it later. In the beginning, there was only a small gap. After the smelting process, the power was not too strong. However, no matter how small a mosquito was, it was still meat. The power slowly flowed into Morong-yu's body. Morong-yu's cultivation didn't increase in the slightest. This was because this power had been automatically condensed into his body by the Chaos Furnace. Now, if Morong-yu's physical body didn't break through, his cultivation wouldn't be able to break through. If he wanted to make a breakthrough in his physical body, he would need a massive amount of energy. However, as the refining speed increased and the power increased, Morong-yu's fleshly body also began to slowly but unceasingly improve. In the blink of an eye, another 500 years had passed. In 500 years, about 1/10 of the Sun Monarch had been refined. However, Morong-yu's fleshly body had also reached its peak under the pure and powerful refinement. On this day, a thunderous sound came from Morong-yu's body. At the same time, it was accompanied by an extremely powerful aura. Peerless sacred weapon fleshly body. Morong-yu suddenly opened his eyes, which were full of joy. After hundreds of years of cultivation, his fleshly body had finally broken through. I should be able to improve my cultivation now, right? Morong-yu thought to himself. The Chaos Furnace continued to vibrate and didn't stop refining the Sun Monarch's skeleton. With the breakthrough in his physical strength, Morong-yu's speed of refining the Sun Monarch's skeleton increased significantly. However, what made Morong-yu helpless was that the power of refining the Sun Monarch's skeleton still didn't enter his cultivation. It was still injected into his fleshly body. In other words, Morong-yu's fleshly body wasn't strong enough to bear the power of the Ancestor Sage realm. One should know that his fleshly body had already reached the level of a peerless sacred weapon. It seems that I can only break through to the level of an ancestor weapon, Morong-yu thought to himself. He didn't know whether to be happy or depressed. However, the strength of his fleshly body was also very beneficial to Morong-yu's combat strength. Now, he was at least a little stronger than before. With the strength of his fleshly body, he could withstand at least a few times more attacks than before. Peerless sacred weapon corresponds to a sage king. The ancestor sage realm corresponds to an ancestor weapon. Don't let my fleshly body reach the level of a chaos ancestor weapon before I can break through. If that's the case, I don't know when I can break through. Morong-yu thought to himself. He didn't know why, but he had a bad feeling in his heart. However, Morong-yu was relieved that his fleshly body didn't need to reach the level of a chaos ancestor weapon to break through to the next level. After another 100 years, after refining 3/10 of the Sun Monarch skeleton, his fleshly body finally reached the level of an ancestor weapon. Now, there were still 6/10 of the Sun Monarch skeleton that hadn't been refined. However, this 6/10 should be enough for Morong-yu to break through to the ancestor sage realm. Morong-yu had been studying the chaotic celestial records, so he didn't have any restrictions for the time being. And the problem of his fleshly body was also solved. Now, as long as he had enough power, Morong-yu could break through to the ancestor sage realm from the peak of the Sage King realm. However, this process required a terrifying amount of power. After refining 5/10 of the Sun Monarch skeleton, Murong Yu's cultivation still hadn't broken through. In addition to the 4/10 of the Sun Monarch's skeleton that had been used to raise his fleshly body, Murong Yu only had 1/10 of the Sun Monarch's skeleton left. Fortunately, Murong Yu also felt that his power had reached its limit. Breakthrough to the next level. Murong Yu's heart was calm and tranquil. He didn't worry about his gains and losses because the Sun Monarch's skeleton had decreased. Everything was natural. On this day, when the last bit of the Sun Monarch's skeleton was refined, Murong Yu finally welcomed the opportunity to break through. Rumble. It was as if the barrier in front of Murong Yu's cultivation had been shattered in an instant. The realm that had troubled him for a long time finally broke through. The Ancestor Sage Realm. First Stage Ancestor Sage. Ha ha ha! Feeling his incomparably powerful strength, Murong Yu couldn't help but laugh out loud. Now, just the power of my fleshly body and cultivation, ordinary high-level Chaos Ancestor Sages are definitely no match for me. If combined with my soul attack, no one below the Saint rankings is a match for me. Murong Yu was full of confidence, but he wasn't arrogant enough to say that he was invincible below the Saint rankings. After all, he was strong, but others weren't weak. He was strong, but there might be people with stronger combat power than him. Even if no one had a higher combat power than him, those experienced 9th stage Chaos Ancestor Sages weren't to be trifled with. After spending a few more months to consolidate his realm, Murong Yu teleported out of the Sun Monarch's space. My clone should be here already, right? Murong Yu appeared in a big city called Ningtai City. This was a city he had been to before. This city was also the closest city to the mysterious Frost Secret Realm. Murong Yu wanted to teleport directly to the mysterious Frost Secret Realm or nearby, but there was no teleportation point there. Therefore, Murong Yu couldn't teleport there either. Just after Murong Yu appeared, in a certain inn in Ningtai City, a young man sitting cross-legged on a bed with a faint golden light flashing all over his body suddenly opened his eyes. His original body finally came out? As he spoke, he had already sent out a message. This person was Murong Yu's clone, the golden giant dragon of the True Dragon clan. However, now he had transformed into a human appearance, and there was no trace of resemblance to Murong Yu's appearance. This was Murong Yu's clone, and also his biggest trump card. He wouldn't expose this clone unless he had no other choice. After all, although Murong Yu was strong, Zhao Yun was even stronger. Didn't he still die? Once Murong Yu's original body died, his clone would still exist, and he wouldn't really die. Therefore, this clone couldn't be exposed. After Murong Yu's original body obtained the Sun Sutra, he communicated with his clone and asked him to find a way to come to Ningtai City. Although the Dragon Clan world was relatively closed, after reaching the chaotic Ancestor Saint realm, his clone could still find a way to come out. Murong Yu could directly tell the clone the Sun Sutra incantation. However, he found that the Sun Sutra booklet contained some extremely mysterious things. If he directly used this booklet to comprehend it, he could get twice the result with half the effort. Even the Sun Monarch, a big shot, carried it with him all the time. How could it be simple? After Murong Yu's original body appeared, he received a message from his clone. After a little sensing, he knew about his clone. Therefore, he took a step and disappeared. At the same time, in a restaurant in the east of the city, Stella, who happened to pass by, suddenly felt her heart skip a beat. After a little sensing, Stella's face showed a trace of ecstasy. It's the aura of that little bastard Murong Yu. This little bastard is actually in Ningtai City. He's dead. Stella couldn't help but laugh, but his eyes were full of resentment. With a sway of his body, he disappeared from where he stood. Swoosh! When he reappeared, Stella was already in the sky above the inn where Murong Yu's original body and clone were. Stella's face was ferocious. Without saying a word, he raised his strength to the extreme and gathered it on his fist. Then, He aimed at where Morongyu was and punched down fiercely. At this time, Morongyu just happened to give the Sun Sutra to his clone. At this time, a dangerous aura instantly shrouded Morongyu. Someone was sneaking up on him. Morongyu instantly came to his senses. After exchanging a look with his clone, they were about to leave. At this time, Stella's power that had reached rank 9 Chaotic Ancestor Saint Realm came crashing down. This guy had broken through again during this time and had reached rank 9 Chaotic Ancestor Saint. Boom! The entire inn was directly blasted to smithereens. Countless saints didn't even have time to react before they were smashed to smithereens by Stella's punch. After all, the power of a rank 9 Chaotic Ancestor Saint was too terrifying. Chapter 16:14. Whoosh! Whoosh! The rank 9 Chaotic Ancestor Saint's full force attack shattered the entire inn and even the surrounding area. Seeing her attack, a satisfied smile appeared on Stella's face. Morongyu's soul attack was powerful, but his cultivation was not. How could he not die? Stella was fully convinced that Morongyu had already been killed by his fist. Hence, he did not continue attacking. However, just when he thought that Morongyu was dead, two black figures suddenly soared into the sky from the ruins of the inn and shot off in opposite directions. Stella was stunned and his face was filled with disbelief. Although Ningtai City was considered a big city, there was definitely no rank 9 Chaotic Ancestor Saint in the inn. Given his strength, none of the level 9 Primal Chaos Ancestral Saints could withstand his attack. However, there were two people who had escaped his attack. This made him very displeased. Just as he was about to make a second move to kill these two people, his eyes suddenly shot out two terrifying beams of light. This was because he sensed Morongyu's aura. Morongyu was not killed. Stella was enraged when he realized this. In the blink of an eye, he raised his strength to the limit and ruthlessly threw a punch at Morongyu. As for Morongyu's clone, he did not care. It didn't linger either. Instead, it quickly disappeared into the distant horizon. Morongyu's original body could handle this. It was at this moment that Morongyu finally discovered who had done it. He looked at Stella coldly and said in a chilling voice, "Stella, you're courting death." As for Stella's attack, Morongyu ignored it. Although Stella had broken through to rank 9 Chaotic Ancestor Saint, he had just broken through. His strength was too weak compared to those experienced rank 9 Chaotic Ancestor Saint. With Morongyu's current strength, he was not afraid at all. Morongyu was confident that he could fight anyone below the saint ranking. Little bastard, die! Infuriated, Stella's fist smashed through space and time as it smashed towards Morongyu at lightning speed. Countless buildings nearby, and even the saints who could not dodge in time, were killed by the aftershock of Stella's power. Morongyu furrowed his brows. Although he wasn't the one who killed those people, he was still the one who killed them. Although he did not kill them, they died because of him. He was not a person who would kill the innocent. Therefore, with a thought, he took a step forward and disappeared on the spot in a flash. He turned into a stream of light and rushed out of Ningtai City. Little bastard, you can't escape today. Stella was furious and charged at Morongyu with his fastest speed. After leaving Ningtai City, Morongyu's face. He turned to face Stella with an indifferent smile. Morongyu was not afraid of Stella at all. Moreover, Stella had broken through to the rank 9 Chaotic Ancestor Saint Realm. It was a good opportunity for him to practice Elephant Drawing Fist. Although the Dragon Elephant Prajna technique was a cultivation technique cultivated in the secular world, it was an extremely powerful combat technique. Even with Morongyu's high cultivation level, he was surprised every time he used this combat technique. The stronger one was, the more terrifying the power of this combat technique would be. Therefore, Morongyu did not cultivate any other combat techniques all these years. Instead of cultivating countless combat techniques, it was better to specialize in a few sets of powerful combat technique. Boom! In the blink of an eye, the fists of the two had already collided in the void. At the moment of collision, Stella's face revealed a ferocious expression. Murong Yu was only a rank 1 ancestor saint. How could he compare to a rank 9 chaotic ancestor saint? However, because Murong Yu was a soul saint, Stella still retained a portion of his power in the soul space to protect his soul. However, very soon, the ferocious expression on Stella's face disappeared and was replaced by a look of horror. Because in the next moment after the collision, his power was destroyed. On the other hand, Murong Yu's attack didn't stop at all. It tore through space and time as it headed straight for Stella. Murderous intent filled the air. Stella was shocked, but he didn't panic. He growled. He roared and struck out with his palm again, trying to break Murong Yu's attack. However, Murong Yu's attack was too powerful. Before Stella's attack could even get close to Murong Yu's fist, it had already collapsed. Purple lightning sword / Stella was shocked. He did not know how Murong Yu had become so powerful in just a few hundred years. 18 black wings flapped wildly and covered the sky. Terrifying rays of light exploded from Stella's body, causing the surrounding void to shatter. As Stella retreated rapidly, he took out the top-grade chaotic ancestor weapon that he was proud of. The purple lightning sword was one of the 10 great sacred weapons of the Stella Demon clan. Although it was not as powerful as a supreme weapon, it was still a top-grade sacred weapon. It was in existence comparable to a supreme weapon. It was not an exaggeration to say that it was a half-step supreme weapon. Whoosh! A purple bolt of lightning flashed in the void. At the same time, all the hair on Murong Yu's body stood on end. His heart was shrouded by an intense aura of death. The purple lightning sword's power was comparable to a supreme weapon, and it was not the most powerful one. The most powerful thing about the purple lightning sword was its speed. Even an average supreme weapon was not as fast as it. Therefore, when Stella took out the purple lightning sword, this terrifying sacred weapon was already in front of Murong Yu. Murong Yu was overwhelmed with shock. With a single thought, he had already retreated. However, the speed of the purple lightning saber was still too fast. Just as his figure swayed, it had already slashed towards him. Hichu Luoshu! Murong Yu roared in his heart. Hichu Luoshu appeared and blocked the purple lightning sword's attack. Murong Yu did not dare to use his body to block it. His body was only at the level of an ancestral weapon. If he blocked the purple lightning sword, he would be cut in half. Bang! Although Hichu Luoshu blocked the purple lightning sword, the terrifying power still sent Murong Yu flying. If not for the fact that Murong Yu was no longer the same person he was in the past, he would still have been shaken to the point that his chi and blood became restless. So powerful? Stella was shocked again. His eyes almost fell out of their socket. He knew how terrifying the purple lightning sword was. In addition to being powerful and fast, the purple lightning sword also had a hidden attribute: it could ignore defense. Not long ago, he had used the purple lightning sword to kill an experienced level 9 Chaos Ancestor Saint. But now, he could not kill Murong Yu, a level 1 Ancestor Saint? Although Stella was shocked, he did not stop attacking. Bolts of purple lightning appeared out of nowhere. They turned into billions of bolts of purple lightning that cut through the void and slashed toward Murong Yu. Murong Yu did not dare to be careless. Hichu Luoshu transformed into a suit of armor and put it on. Bang! Murong Yu punched out and hit the purple lightning sword. A powerful force erupted, and it actually blasted the purple lightning saber away. As for Murong Yu, he was sent flying like a broken rag doll. Because of Hichu Luoshu, Murong Yu was not injured. But it was necessary for his chi and blood to be in turmoil. However, even though the purple lightning blade was sent flying, it quickly slashed over again. This made Murong Yu depressed. Stella had already retreated far away, and was only controlling the purple lightning sword to slash at Murong Yu. A level 9 Chaos Ancestor Saint dared not fight a level 1 Ancestor Saint in close combat. This made Stella feel embarrassed. But Murong Yu was not an ordinary Ancestor Saint. Moreover, as long as he could kill Murong Yu, he did not care what method he used. Bang! 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 Murong Yu was like a sandbag being slashed by the purple lightning sword. He could not get close to Stella at all. This made him speechless. Apart from the Hichu Luoshu and purple heavenly rosette pagoda, Murong Yu's other treasures could not compare to the purple lightning sword. Do I have to use my supreme weapon? Murong Yu's heart skipped a beat. If he used his supreme weapon, the purple lightning sword would be shattered in an instant. However, the purple heavenly rosette pagoda needed too much power. Murong Yu was not sure if he would be sucked dry. Oh right, isn't there still the celestial trapping sword? Murong Yu's heart skipped a beat and he laughed. The celestial trapping sword was kept in the Hichu Luoshu in the mysterious Frost secret realm. After hundreds of years, it was finally subdued by Murong Yu. The celestial trapping sword was much stronger than the celestial exterminating sword and the immortal slaughtering sword. It was also an existence comparable to a supreme weapon. I wonder which is stronger, the celestial trapping sword or the purple lightning sword? Murong Yu's heart skipped a beat. The celestial trapping sword had already turned into a stream of light and shot out from the Hichu Luoshu. Boom! In the blink of an eye, the two weapons, which were comparable to supreme weapons, collided with each other. A terrifying force erupted, and a large part of the surrounding void was instantly annihilated. Crack, a cracking sound could be heard. Murong Yu and Stella's hearts skipped a beat. However, Murong Yu's face soon revealed a dangerous look. The celestial trapping sword was fine. Since the celestial trapping sword was fine, then the purple lightning sword was in trouble. Stella's expression changed, and she was about to withdraw the purple lightning sword. But at this moment, "Kacha, kacha" sounds kept echoing. From afar, one could see that the purple lightning blade, which was originally wreaking havoc and suppressing Murong Yu to the point where he couldn't even retaliate, was now breaking apart into countless fragments in the air. The purple lightning sword, one of the 10 great divine weapons of the Fiend clan, was broken just like that. Whoosh! Ignoring the shock in her heart, Stella frantically flapped her 18 black wings and turned into a stream of light, flying toward the distant horizon. Now that she had lost her only advantage, she was no longer a match for Murong Yu. If she did not flee now, when would she? Chapter 16-15. There was no doubt that Stella was powerful. However, without the purple lightning blade, he wouldn't be Murong Yu's match. Moreover, after the immortal trapping sword was summoned, his purple lightning blade was also shattered. And this was because Murong Yu didn't use a soul attack. Otherwise, Stella would have been killed. According to Murong Yu's estimations, Murong Yu's current overall strength was enough to dominate anyone below the saint rankings. "Stella, you're leaving just like that?" Murong Yu sneered. The immortal trapping sword had already pierced through the void and turned into a sword radiance that slashed at Stella. Stella's hair stood on end. His heart was also enveloped by an intense aura of death. His face was filled with shock as his speed skyrocketed again. He broke through the endless space and quickly escaped. Even the purple lightning blade, one of the demon clan's 10 great saint weapons, couldn't withstand a single blow. If he was hit by the immortal trapping sword, he would definitely die. Moreover, Murong Yu didn't use a soul attack. However, although Stella was fast, the immortal trapping sword was even faster. After a chi sound, the immortal trapping sword appeared behind Stella and slashed down at lightning speed. Stella was inexplicably shocked as an intense aura of death enveloped him. At this moment, he knew that he was definitely going to die. There was nowhere to run. However, he didn't want to die. Therefore, he roared and gathered all his strength on his right fist. He then punched at the immortal trapping sword in an attempt to stop it. However, Stella didn't have any hope, because the immortal trapping sword was simply too powerful. Ding! Just as Stella was about to be killed. However, at this moment, a bright light tore through the sky from afar. It hit the immortal trapping sword in a flash. After a crisp sound, the boundless power of the immortal trapping sword dissipated in an instant. The immortal trapping sword paused for a moment before it was sent flying. Boom! Just as the immortal trapping sword was attacked, Murong-yu, who was not far behind, trembled. An incomparably powerful force blasted Murong-yu's body through the air. At this moment, Murong-yu's physical body seemed to be crushed by an ancient sacred mountain. The frightening power erupted, causing the blood and qi in Murong-yu's body to churn like a raging sea. Even Murong-yu's mind was shaken to the point of trembling violently. Only his soul was still sitting cross-legged in his soul sea. Deng deng deng, Murong-yu retreated a few steps in the air, shattering the space behind him. Waves of power surged out of his feet, shattering the boundless space. The energy that surged out was the energy that had entered Murong-yu's body and was forced out by him. Murong-yu only managed to stabilize himself after retreating 7 to 8 steps. He indifferently looked into the distance. At the same time, he grabbed the immortal trapping sword in the air was caught. Whoosh! A big foot stepped out of the boundless space. The surrounding space was shattered by the force of the big foot. Stella, who was near the big foot, was shaken to the point that his blood was churning. He retreated. After a long distance, he finally stopped and looked at the big foot with a horrified expression. After the big foot came out, an illusory figure appeared in front of Murong-yu and the others. As the illusory figure continued to solidify, a black-clothed youth with a saber on his back and an indifferent expression entered Murong-yu's line of sight. Chi. The black-clothed young man just stood there, but he was like an unparalleled saber. Streaks of incomparably sharp, invisible saber chi constantly erupted from his body, shattering the surrounding void and slashing in all directions. Sharp, domineering, full of murderous intent. This was the feeling that the black-clothed young man gave Murong-yu. After standing still, the black-clothed young man glanced at Murong-yu. Boom! The moment the black-clothed young man's gaze landed on Murong-yu, Murong-yu felt as if he was being crushed by an ancient sacred mountain. His skin hurt as if it was being burned by the most terrifying flame in the world. Even his body, which had reached the level of an ancestral artifact, had started to crack. Just a glance had such terrifying power. Murong-yu retreated a few more steps and blocked the black-clothed young man's attack. He looked at the black-clothed young man with a cold expression. This person was definitely an expert on the saint rankings. From afar, the black-clothed young man's power was much weaker than Yin Gaohan's. However, he was many times stronger than those experienced rank 9 chaotic ancestor sages. However, what puzzled Murong-yu was that Yin Gaohan should be stronger than this young man. However, the feeling that the two gave Murong-yu was like heaven and earth. Perhaps it was because of the black-clothed young man's murderous intent. Why are you, an expert on the saint rankings, attacking me? Murong-yu looked at the other party indifferently and asked in a deep voice. At the same time, he had secretly communicated with many treasures. As long as something went wrong, he would immediately rush into the Hichu Luoshu and teleport away. The difference in strength between the two sides was too great. If he chose to fight head-on instead of escaping, he would definitely be out of his mind. I heard that you destroyed the Ice Snow sect? The black-clothed young man looked at Murong-yu and said indifferently. His voice was as sharp as a blade. Murong-yu frowned slightly. Was this young man related to the Ice Snow sect? Although the Ice Snow sect was powerful, they definitely didn't have an expert on the saint rankings. Moreover, there weren't many rank 9 chaotic ancestor sages. However, even if the other party was an expert on the saint rankings, Murong-yu wouldn't be afraid to answer, let alone an expert on the saint rankings. What's done is done. What's there to be afraid of? It's me. You want revenge? Murong-yu sneered and was ready to enter the Hichu Luoshu. Boom. Hearing Murong-yu's affirmative answer, the black-clothed young man's murderous intent erupted like a torrent. With the black-clothed young man as the center, the terrifying murderous intent spread in all directions. However, most of the murderous intent was aimed at Murong-yu. At the same time, the black-clothed young man took a step forward and looked coldly at Murong-yu. He said expressionlessly, "In that case, go to hell." As he spoke, the black-clothed young man threw a punch at Murong-yu. In the distance, Stella watched all this with his mouth agape. He originally thought that he was going to be killed by Murong-yu, but such an expert suddenly appeared out of nowhere? And it seemed that this expert was much stronger than Murong-yu. Murong-yu was definitely going to die. Stella sneered and took a step back. However, he did not leave the place. He wanted to see Murong-yu being killed with his own eyes. Murong-yu's face changed drastically. He was extremely angry. The black-clothed young man had attacked him without saying a word, which had infuriated him. Murong-yu originally wanted to enter the Hichu Luoshu. However, he suddenly changed his mind. He was unwilling to escape just like that. Moreover, with his foundation, although the black-clothed young man was powerful, he might not be able to kill him. Soul Slash. Murong-yu's guts rose as he directly launched his most powerful single-target soul attack. At the same time, Murong-yu took out the Yin-Yang Cauldron and attacked his opponent. "You're overestimating yourself," the black-clothed young man sneered. His fist shook violently and violently hit the Yin-Yang Cauldron. After an earth-shattering explosion, the Yin-Yang Cauldron was sent flying by the young man's punch. Murong-yu's mind had also received a heavy blow, causing him to suffer some minor injuries. Soul attack? This is interesting. However, it's still too weak. Can't even withstand a single blow. The black-clothed young man sneered, his face full of disdain. At the same time, his other hand suddenly reached out and grabbed the air. Bang! Murong-yu's soul attack was destroyed by his grab. Murong-yu was instantly shocked. This was the first time someone had destroyed his soul attack. Previously, even if his soul attack did not work, no one was able to destroy his soul attack. This black-clothed young man was very powerful. Although he was not as strong as Yin Gaohan, he was close. Experts on the Saint rankings were indeed terrifying. The difference in cultivation level was too great, and his soul attack could not do anything to the other party. Basically, it was impossible to do anything to this person. Is this all the chaotic celestial body can do? The black-clothed young man sneered. The large hand that had destroyed Murong-yu's soul attack once again reached out and grabbed at Murong-yu. An inexplicable force emanated from the black-clothed young man's palm and quickly dissipated in all directions like ripples in water. Murong-yu's expression changed slightly because he had just discovered that the surrounding void seemed to have solidified. Chaotic celestial body, Hichu Luoshu. You can't enter Hichu Luoshu. Let's see how you're going to die. The black-clothed young man sneered. His large hand had already penetrated billions of space-time and ruthlessly smashed at Murong-yu's head. An intense aura of death instantly shrouded Murong-yu's mind. Murong-yu's face was gloomy, and his eyes flashed with a cold, killing intent. If the black-clothed young man thought that this was all Murong-yu was capable of, then he was gravely mistaken. Murong-yu still had a few sovereign artifacts. There was no way he could use Nuwa's sacred temple, and the scripture of mountains and seas wasn't very powerful. The most powerful aspect of the scripture of mountains and seas was the vicious beasts within. However, he hadn't subdued many vicious beasts yet. The dozens of vicious beasts he had were not enough to withstand a single slap from the black-clothed young man. Thus, the only weapon Murong-yu could use right now was the heavenly purple rosette tower. With but a thought, the heavenly purple rosette tower transformed into a streak of purple light and shot out from within Murong-yu's body. It expanded with the wind, and in the blink of an eye, the heavenly purple rosette tower grew to the size of a small mountain and erupted with an incomparably terrifying aura. 5 colored sacred lights soared into the sky, and the heavenly purple rosette tower carried with it a terrifying aura that could destroy heaven and earth as it smashed towards the black-clothed young man. A sovereign artifact? A cold light flashed through the black-clothed young man's eyes. His large hand moved horizontally, and he actually grabbed at the heavenly purple rosette tower. Chapter 16:16. Boom. In the blink of an eye, the young man's hand had already grabbed the purple radiance heavenly rota tower. After an earth-shattering explosion, the purple radiance heavenly rota tower was sent flying. However, the young man in black did not have it easy either. His body, which was originally standing in the air like an ancient sacred mountain, was also sent flying by the power of the purple radiance heavenly rota tower. Bang! 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 The young man in black smashed through the endless void. In an instant, the young man was sent flying hundreds of millions of miles away. From afar, the young man's face was ashen, and his eyes were spitting fire as he glared at Murongyu from afar. It seemed that the young man in black was very angry. After all, he was an expert on the Saint leaderboard. Although his ranking was not as high as Murongyu's, as an expert on the Saint leaderboard, he was actually sent flying by Murongyu. Moreover, his chi and blood were surging like a raging sea from the impact. How could he not be furious? It was a disgrace. In the distance, Murongyu's face was gloomy. Although it seemed that he had the upper hand in this exchange of blows, in reality, Murongyu was the one who was at a disadvantage. Although the young man in black was sent flying, the purple radiance heavenly rota tower was also sent flying. Moreover, the overflowing damage almost shattered Murongyu's mind. Most importantly, the purple radiance heavenly rota tower was his most powerful attack at the moment. If it could not hurt the young man in black, what else could Murongyu do to fight with the young man in black? At the same time, he deeply felt the terror of an expert on the Saint leaderboard. Ha ha! Murongyu, you little bastard, weren't you very arrogant? Now let's see how you're going to die. Previously, Stella had been tortured by Murongyu. Now that he saw Murongyu being tortured by the young man in black, he could not help but laugh out loud. Murongyu glanced at Stella indifferently, and a cold light flashed in his eyes. At the same time, he slashed out a soul attack. Soul slash! An extremely strong aura of death suddenly enveloped Stella's heart. Stella's laughter stopped abruptly. His expression changed drastically as he knew that Murongyu had attacked him. Without any hesitation, he unleashed his fastest speed and charged towards the black-clothed young man. He knew that he definitely wouldn't be able to withstand Murongyu's soul attack. Moreover, he could not escape from Murongyu's attack. Now, only the black-clothed young man could save him. Therefore, he dashed toward the black-clothed young man. In the distance, the black-clothed youth naturally knew what Stella was thinking. However, he couldn't let Murongyu kill Stella in front of him. It would be even more humiliating if Murongyu killed the person he was protecting right in front of him. So he stretched out his big hand and grabbed at Stella in the air. Murongyu's eyes flashed with a cold light. He sneered and increased his soul attack to the limit. With a swoosh, Murongyu's soul slash struck Stella's soul fiercely. In just an instant, Stella's soul was destroyed. Stella was dead. However, even though Stella was killed, his physical body wasn't injured at all. Moreover, due to inertia, he continued to fly forward rapidly. Swoosh! The black-clothed youth finally stretched out his hand and grabbed Stella's body. Just as the black-clothed youth thought that Stella had been saved, his expression suddenly changed. This was because he realized that Stella had lost all signs of life. When his divine thought rushed into Stella's soul space, he realized that Stella's soul had been shattered. Yet, Murongyu had managed to kill Stella while he was taking action. At this moment, the black-clothed youth was even more furious than before. Humiliation, humiliation. This was the greatest humiliation. Murong Yu, I'm going to kill you. The black-clothed youth roared angrily. He took a step forward and threw a punch at Murong Yu across space. However, just as he made his move, Murong Yu had already turned into a streak of light, streaked across the sky, and quickly fled into the distance. Murong Yu had fled without a fight. Originally, Murong Yu thought that he could use the purple light heavenly roar tower to fight against the black-clothed youth, who was an expert on the saint ranking. However, he realized that he couldn't, so he fled. He would be an idiot if he didn't flee. If the surrounding space hadn't been sealed, Murong Yu would have entered Hichu Luoshu long ago. Boom! Murong Yu had increased his speed to the maximum. In the blink of an eye, he had traversed billions of spacetime. However, no matter how fast he was only as fast as a rank 9 chaotic ancestor saint. He was far inferior to the black-clothed youth, who was an expert on the saint ranking. A terrifying power tore through space and came at him. Before he even got close to Murong Yu could already feel the terrifying aura. The terrifying aura was so strong that Murong Yu's body, which had reached the level of an ancestral artifact, was almost crushed. It was just the aura. If he was hit by the punch, Murong Yu's body would definitely explode. Damn it! Murong Yu was extremely frustrated. Until now, he still didn't know who the black-clothed youth was and why he wanted to kill him. What Murong Yu didn't know was that in the entire saint's world, apart from his family and friends, who didn't want to kill him. However, even though Murong Yu was frustrated, he wasn't someone who would sit around and wait for death. Hichu Luoshu had already transformed into a suit of armor. The purple light heavenly roar tower floated above his head and shone down rays of light, enveloping him firmly. However, this wasn't enough. Murong Yu also took out the mountain and sea scripture and the yin-yang cauldron. 2 supreme artifacts. 2 treasures that surpass the supreme artifacts. However, even so, Murong Yu still felt unsafe. This was because he couldn't activate the full power of these treasures at his current level. If he could kill the black-clothed youth with any one of them. After doing all this, Murong Yu reached into the Hichu Luoshu and took out a bunch of communication jade slip. Then, he crushed them all. These were the communication jade slips of the Seamless Society. Murong Yu was helpless. Originally, he didn't want to ask for help. However, he had no choice now. In fact, he only wanted Yu Yangjia and Yin Gaohan to rush over in time. With their strength, dealing with the black-clothed youth was definitely not a problem. Although Lu Xiankai and the rest were powerful, they weren't experts on the holy rankings. After Murong Yu crushed the transmission jade slips to call for help, he made several grasping motions in the air. In the next moment, the Qianquan bow and the heaven-shaking arrow appeared in his hands. Whether or not I'll be able to keep my life depends on you, Murong Yu thought to himself as he fiercely shot out the 3 heaven-shaking arrows. Although Murong Yu had asked for help, he wasn't someone who relied on others. He was the most reliable person in everything. The 3 heaven-shaking arrows turned into 3 rays of golden light that broke through the void and appeared directly in front of the black-clothed youth's attack. Boom! After an earth-shattering explosion, the first sky-shaking arrow was bounced off. Although the black-clothed youth's attack wasn't destroyed, it was stopped for a moment. At this moment, the second arrow was shot. Another earth-shattering sound rang out. Several cracks had appeared on the black-robed youth's attack, and his speed had slowed down once again. But when the third attack came, this incomparably condensed power was shattered with a bang. The power of 3 arrows. Seeing this, Murong Yu was delighted. He felt that the power of the heaven-shaking arrow seemed to be more powerful than the attack of the heavenly purple light rhoda. Moreover, the power used to shoot the arrows was less than 1% of the power of the heavenly purple light rhoda. Moreover, The most important thing was the uniqueness of the heaven-shaking arrow. It wouldn't turn back until it killed the enemy. Therefore, although the 3 heaven-shaking arrows were sent flying in the end, very quickly they broke through the void again and shot towards the black-clothed youth's attack. In a flash, the black-clothed youth's attack was destroyed by the 3 heaven-shaking arrows. Then, the 3 heaven-shaking arrows broke through the void and turned into 3 rays of golden light that entered Murong Yu's body. The black-clothed youth who was chasing behind was stunned. He didn't expect Murong Yu to have such a skill. However, he quickly turned to look at Murong Yu with a greedy expression. If he could kill Murong Yu, not only could he get Murong Yu's chaotic celestial body, but he could also get his various treasures. Murong Yu's treasures were not ordinary. If he got his hands on them, his strength would definitely skyrocket. It wouldn't be a problem for him to rush to the top of the holy rankings. With greed in his heart, the youth attacked even more fiercely. In less than a breath's time, he closed the distance between him and Murong Yu again. The advantage that he had gained with the help of the heaven-shaking arrows was instantly gone. Boom! A shockwave of energy ruthlessly bombarded Murong Yu's body. Murong Yu immediately activated the heavenly purple light Rhoda, the Yin-Yang Cauldron, and the Hichu Luoshu to form a defense and dissipate most of the attack. However, they couldn't block all of the attack. Boom! Crack! Murong Yu's body, which had reached the level of an ancestral artifact, was like porcelain. Cracks began to appear on his body and spread out in all directions. Fresh blood gushed out like a fountain. It was an extremely terrifying sight. Hichu, can you enter the Hichu Luoshu now? Murong Yu roared in his mind. There's a 50% chance that you'll charge into the chaotic turbulence. Your body can already withstand the chaotic turbulence. However, there's a chance that you'll be exiled forever, Hichu said in a low voice. In the beginning, the void had been sealed. Murong Yu couldn't enter the Hichu Luoshu. Now, he could enter. However, the black-clothed youth's continuous attacks made the space around Murong Yu unstable. Therefore, he couldn't enter the Hichu Luoshu safely. Murong Yu hesitated for a moment. Infinite exile. Just as Murong Yu was hesitating, there was a sudden roar in front of him. Then, Murong Yu was horrified to discover that a terrifying and indescribable power had enveloped his body. He couldn't break free from it. Before he could react, there was a swoosh and his body disappeared on the spot. Chapter 16-17. Rumble. The instant Murong Yu disappeared, the black-clothed youth's huge fist came crashing over, shattering the void within a radius of 100 million miles and annihilating it. However, Murong Yu had already disappeared. Ah! Who is it? Who is it that ruined my plan? The black-robed young man roared. He traversed hundreds of millions of space-time and appeared at the place where Murong Yu had disappeared. At the same time, he threw out another punch with his invincible divine fist. However, this time, it was not Murong Yu who was killed. Instead, it was the person who had exiled Murong Yu. However, what made the black-robed young man even more furious was that the person who had secretly attacked Murong Yu did not seem to exist at all. No matter how he attacked, he could not force that person out of the void. It was as if that person had never existed. However, if it was not for that person, why would Murong Yu be exiled? Perhaps that person left after exiling Murong Yu? The black-robed young man was extremely furious. A terrifying aura burst out from his body, shattering the void around him. However, it was all in vain. Then, where was Murong Yu exiled to? Murong Yu felt his vision turn black. A huge force was exerted on his body, making him unable to move. Everything before him was pitch black. Although he couldn't see anything, Murong Yu knew that he was rapidly moving forward. Murong Yu took out all his treasures and surrounded them. He did not make any unnecessary movements. It was very dangerous for something to happen during such a teleportation. It was better to wait quietly until he was about to be exiled to somewhere. After what seemed like an instant, or hundreds of millions of years, Murong Yu's eyes finally lit up. Then, he was ejected from the void passage. Crack! As soon as Murong Yu landed, the things under his feet were crushed. His entire body suddenly sank down until it was below his kneecap. At the same time, a desolate, murderous, and ancient aura assaulted his face. Murong Yu could even smell the strong scent of blood in the air. When he looked down, he saw that there were countless skeletons beneath his feet. The sound just now was because Murong Yu had crushed a lot of bones. Looking into the distance from his feet, all he could see was a field of white bones. There were all kinds of broken limbs. There was no flesh, only severely damaged bones and rusty weapons. What is this place? Murong Yu was surprised. With a thought, he soared into the air. However, he soon found it difficult to ascend. In reality, the pressure in this place was extremely great. The higher the altitude, the greater the pressure. There seemed to be a restriction that prohibited flying here. However, perhaps because it was too long ago, people like Murong Yu could still withstand the pressure and fly. It was just that it wasn't too high. Withstanding the tremendous pressure, Murong Yu flew into the void. Looking into the distance, all he could see was a scene of devastation, endless bones, and various rusty weapons. This was a battlefield. Moreover, this battlefield had been around for a long time. It should be an ancient battlefield, Murong Yu thought to himself as he moved forward quickly. Soon, he realized that this ancient battlefield was huge and there were countless bones. Could this be the ancient battlefield? After observing, Murong Yu realized that other than the bones of the human race, there were all kinds of bones in this battlefield. The demon race, dragon race, phoenix race, demon race, angel race, and so on. Therefore, Murong Yu guessed that this was the place where the various races fought in the ancient times. However, Murong Yu had never heard of this ancient battlefield. Moreover, what depressed him the most was that the space of this ancient battlefield was extremely solid. He couldn't break this space with a single punch. This space seemed to be independent. Murong Yu couldn't sense the teleportation points in the Holy World, God World, and other worlds. In other words, Murong Yu couldn't teleport out at all. He couldn't use the origin of the God World to teleport out. However, what comforted Murong Yu was that he could still enter the Hichu Luoshu. However, if he wanted to leave, he could only find the exit. Otherwise, he could only spend the rest of his life in this ancient battlefield. Roar! Murong Yu was moving forward alone. All of a sudden, a roar that shook the heavens and earth was heard. At the same time, an extremely strong and dangerous aura rose from the bottom of Murong Yu's heart. At this moment, Murong Yu had goosebumps all over his body. Without the slightest hesitation, Murong Yu threw a punch behind him. Boom! After an earth-shattering explosion, Murong Yu's fist seemed to have hit a ferocious beast. However, in reality, there was nothing near him. However, Murong Yu was certain that he'd killed something with his attack. This was because at the same time of the collision, the violent power had sent him flying. It was at least a rank 9 chaotic ancestor saint. Moreover, it was formless and intangible. Murong Yu's eyes flickered as he looked at his surroundings. He wanted to see the energy radiance and the aura that the other party left in the void. However, what made him feel strange was that he didn't see any energy radiance or aura other than his own. However, he saw the fluctuation in the space that he attacked. Swoosh! A dangerous aura appeared in Murong Yu's heart again. Murong Yu's face turned gloomy. With a thought, he quickly retreated. However, the dangerous aura was like a shadow attached to him. Not only did it not weaken, but it became stronger instead. What is it? Come out! Murong Yu saw an extremely hidden ripple in the void in front of him. If he didn't control the rules of space, he wouldn't have noticed it. At the same time, Murong Yu stretched out his hand and slammed it into the air. Rumble! Large patches of the void were shattered. However, nothing could be seen at all. Bang! At this moment, Murong-Yu felt a sharp pain in his body. Then, a huge force slammed into his body and sent him flying. If it weren't for the fact that Murong-Yu had already taken out the He-Tu, Luo Shu, and other treasures, his body would have exploded from this attack. After sending Murong-Yu flying, the unknown existence suddenly disappeared. No matter how Murong-Yu observed and searched, he couldn't find the other party. He didn't know if the existence was invisible or it was very good at hiding. Murong-Yu's divine thought had covered the void in a radius of hundreds of millions of miles, but he still didn't find anything. However, the dangerous aura in his heart didn't stop. This was because the unknown existence was still spying on him in the dark. Murong-Yu searched through his memories, but couldn't find anything related to powerful vicious beasts that could conceal themselves. Even He-Tu didn't know. "Since you don't want to come out, I'll force you out." Murong-Yu's eyes flashed with a cold light. At the same time, the soul power in his spiritual space started to riot. Soul storm. Following Murong-Yu's roar, an incomparably berserk soul force spread out in all directions with Murong-Yu's body as the center. It was an indiscriminate attack. As long as it was within the attack range of the soul storm, everything could be attacked. Perhaps sensing danger, the unknown existence quickly retreated from the void. However, although it was fast, Murong-Yu's soul storm wasn't slow either, and it was a sudden attack. Boom! Hundreds of millions of miles in front of Murong-Yu, the void suddenly cracked. Then, a gigantic beast appeared. The head of a horse, the eyes of a lion, the back of a tiger, the body of a deer, and the scales of a dragon. The hair on its tail was like a dragon's tail, and there was meat on one corner. This was the appearance of the beast. However, this beast didn't have the ferocious aura of an ordinary beast. On the contrary, it gave Murong-Yu a very comfortable aura. Although the other party had a murderous look and wanted to kill Murong-Yu, Murong-Yu didn't care. "This is a Qilin." Just as Murong-Yu was sizing up the beast, He-Chu's exclamation sounded in his mind. "I remember now, this is the cloud-soaring Qilin. Its speed is extremely fast, and it can travel through space. It's the most terrifying sacred beast in ancient times. However, it seems to have gone extinct after the ancient war. Why would a cloud-soaring Qilin appear here? Holy Lord, you must subdue it. It'll be very beneficial to you." He-Chu was excited and encouraged Murong-Yu to subdue the cloud-soaring Qilin. At this moment, after the cloud-soaring Qilin was exposed, it had already traveled through the void and flew forward. That speed made Murong-Yu blush with shame. Murong-Yu didn't hesitate and directly chased after it. At the same time, He-Chu also explained the Qilin in the Holy World. Like the True Dragon and the Phoenix clan, these could be called sacred beasts. However, above these sacred beasts, there was an even more powerful and noble sacred beast, Qilin. Qilin was the most powerful sacred beast in the Holy World. There was no other. However, compared to the dragon and the Phoenix clan, Qilin was more noble and powerful. However, their numbers were really too few. Moreover, in the ancient war, the Qilin clan had all fallen. Since then, they had become history. It was also because of this that there weren't many people in the Holy World who knew about the existence of Qilin. Moreover, the most important thing was that the Qilin clan had an extremely good relationship with the human clan. Back then, because they helped the human clan, they were jointly attacked and killed by the sacred clan and other races. The cloud-soaring Qilin was a type of Qilin. It was good at speed and traveling through the void. This type of Qilin was the darling of space. Just like fish in water, it was even stronger than Murong-Yu, who controlled the space law. Moreover, the cloud-soaring Qilin's strength was extremely terrifying. When it appeared just now, Murong-Yu had already seen its realm. It was lower than Murong-Yu. It was only in the ancient sage realm. However, it had the strength of a rank 9 chaotic ancestor saint. Moreover, with its ability to appear and disappear unpredictably, an ordinary rank 9 chaotic ancestor saint would only be killed in an instant. Chapter 1618. Swoosh. Just as Murong Yu disappeared in pursuit of the cloud-splitting Qilin, a figure appeared out of thin air where Murong Yu had been. It was a skinny figure covered in a black robe. His face was blurry, only revealing a pair of long eyes that flickered with a cold light. He disappeared so quickly? A low voice came out from the skinny man in black. Then, he reached out his hand and grabbed a handful of air in the void. He sniffed it, then his eyes shone brightly. At the same time, he looked in the direction Murong Yu had left. Murong Yu, you will become mine in the end in this primeval battlefield. Chaotic celestial body, hee. The skinny man in black laughed coldly. He took a step and disappeared on the spot, chasing Murong Yu into the distant horizon. If there were no surprises, it was this person who had used some method to banish Murong Yu into the primeval battlefield. Perhaps because of the primeval battlefield's uniqueness, as long as Murong Yu entered here, he would not be able to escape. If it was outside the saint's world, no matter how powerful he was, he could not guarantee that he would be able to obtain Murong Yu's body. Moreover, even if he killed Murong Yu, he might not have the time to refine Murong Yu's body. After all, there were just too many experts in the saint's world who coveted Murong Yu's body. And in the primeval battlefield, with his strength, Murong Yu would not be able to escape. Murong Yu, who was chasing the cloud-splitting Qilin, was completely unaware of the intense danger that was rapidly approaching him. At this moment, Murong Yu's only target was the cloud-splitting Qilin, who had banished him into the primeval battlefield. Murong Yu was naturally furious, and he also knew that the other party did not have good intentions. But now, he did not even know who the other party was, so he naturally could not seek revenge. However, Murong Yu had already recorded this matter in his heart. He was a vengeful person. The Qilin's speed was extremely fast. Within a few breaths of time, it had already left Murong Yu far behind. Even its shadow could not be seen. However, ever since the cloud-soaring space-splitting Qilin revealed itself, it left its aura in the void. Therefore, Murong Yu quickly chased after this aura. After a few days, Murong Yu had already reached the depths of the ancient battlefield. At this moment, the pressure became even more terrifying. Murong Yu could only fly at a low altitude due to the suppression. Moreover, the murderous and ancient aura grew denser and denser, and it suppressed Murong Yu to the point that he felt an incomparable pressure in his heart. Aside from that, there would also be ferocious beasts with terrifying strength but low cultivation bases that would appear from time to hunt down Murong Yu. Of course, these ferocious beasts were not as miraculous as the cloud-splitting space Qilin. They could not turn invisible. However, their attacks were filled with strong murderous intent and murderous aura, and their combat power was extremely strong. However, as long as there were no ferocious beasts that were on the holy leaderboard, they were not much of a threat to Murong Yu. In the beginning, Murong Yu had killed many ferocious beasts of this level. However, later on, Murong Yu did not want to kill them anymore. Instead, he kept them in the Hichu Luoshu. Along the way, Murong Yu had collected dozens of powerful ferocious beasts, further increasing his strength. If his main goal was not to hunt down the cloud-soaring space-splitting Qilin, Murong Yu would have collected even more ferocious beasts. The strong pressure suppressed Murong Yu to the point that he could no longer fly. At this moment, Murong Yu landed on a tall mountain. In his line of sight, the cloud-soaring space-splitting Qilin was at the top of another mountain, glaring at Murong Yu with murderous intent. Its eyes seemed to be spitting fire, and it seemed to be extremely furious. Perhaps it was because the cloud-soaring space-splitting Qilin was the king of the holy beasts, but no other ferocious beasts dared to set foot on this mountain for hundreds of millions of miles. Along the way, Murong Yu also saw many skeletons of ferocious beasts that seemed to have been killed with a single slap. It should be the work of the cloud-soaring space-splitting Qilin. The cloud-soaring space-splitting Qilin's combat power was strong, but it should not have reached the level of an expert on the holy leaderboard. Therefore, Murong Yu estimated for a moment, then unfolded his body and charged towards the cloud-soaring space-splitting Qilin. On the other side, the cloud-soaring space-splitting Qilin also roared angrily. It stomped on the ground and used the force to dash out. It turned into a stream of light, smashing through hundreds of millions of space-time, and charged towards Murong Yu. The cloud-soaring space-splitting Qilin was extremely angry at Murong Yu, a human who had chased it for days and nights. Boom! In the blink of an eye, the two of them were engaged in a fierce battle. This time, it was a battle of open swords and spears. The terrifying power exploded, causing the surrounding void to shatter continuously. The mountains were also razed to the ground continuously. Murong Yu used various combat skills and attacked the cloud-soaring space-splitting Qilin to the point that it could not fight back. Besides roaring continuously, the cloud-soaring space-splitting Qilin seemed to have no strength to fight back against Murong Yu. This made Murong Yu feel very strange, because after a round of battle, he realized that the cloud-soaring space-splitting Qilin's strength seemed to be weaker than before. Moreover, during the battle, the cloud-soaring space-splitting Qilin did not hide in the void. It seemed that the ability to hide in the void had disappeared into thin air. There must be something wrong with the cloud-soaring space-splitting Qilin. Murong Yu muttered to himself, but his hands did not stop at all. All kinds of big moves poured out continuously. He must suppress the cloud-soaring space-splitting Qilin today. Therefore, although he kept using big moves, he did not kill the cloud-soaring space-splitting Qilin. It was also because of this that the cloud-soaring space-splitting Qilin could persevere. However, as the battle continued to drag on, the cloud-soaring space-splitting Qilin's strength declined more and more. Originally, its strength had reached the level of an experienced rank 9 Chaotic Ancestor Sage. Now, it had dropped to the level of a rank 1 Chaotic Ancestor Sage. It would not take long for the cloud-soaring space-splitting Qilin to fall to the level of an Ancestor Sage. In that case, it would definitely be taken down by Murong Yu. Roar! The cloud-soaring space-splitting Qilin let out an earth-shattering roar. After slapping Murong Yu away with its claw, it turned around and flew away. "Where are you going?" Murong Yu shouted. He took a step forward and chased after it. In the blink of an eye, the cloud-splitting Qilin crashed into the previous mountain, and then disappeared with a swoosh. Without the slightest hesitation, Murong Yu also charged in. The scenery in front of him changed and Murong Yu realized that he had entered a huge cave dwelling. In front of him, the cloud-soaring space-splitting Qilin that had fought with him earlier was kneeling in the cave dwelling. In front of it were two Qilins that were many times larger than it. They were sitting cross-legged on the ground and exuded an extremely terrifying aura. The aura that the two Qilins exuded was definitely at the level of an expert on the holy rankings. Their strength might even be at Yu Yangjia's level or even higher. Every hair on Murong Yu's body stood on end. He immediately took out all of his treasures and raised his strength to the limit. However, he soon realized that it was just a false alarm. Although the two Qilins were powerful, they did not have any aura of life. In other words, the two Qilins were already dead. These two Qilins should be the parents of the cloud-soaring space-splitting Qilin. Although Murong Yu was certain that the two Qilins were dead, he did not dare to be careless and continued to size them up vigilantly. The experts in ancient times were all very powerful. Who knew what they had up their sleeves? Plop! Just as Murong Yu was sizing up the two dead Qilins, the cloud-soaring space-splitting Qilin that had fought with Murong Yu earlier fell straight to the ground and fainted. What's going on? Murong Yu was stunned. Rumble! After the cloud-soaring space-splitting Qilin fell, waves of violent and chaotic energy constantly erupted from its body. In an instant, the cloud-soaring space-splitting Qilin's powerful body cracked and blood gushed out. It was extremely terrifying. Murong Yu even felt that the cloud-soaring space-splitting Qilin's spiritual aura had become violent and unstable. Morong Yu was shocked. He rushed to the side of the cloud-soaring space-splitting Qilin and began to check it out. What he saw gave him a fright. The cloud-soaring space-splitting Qilin's body seemed to be in chaos. The energy that was originally condensed into a force was like a chaotic battle. It lost control in his body and ran everywhere. This was not a problem. As long as the cloud-soaring space-splitting Qilin controlled these forces again, there would not be much of a problem. What scared Morong Yu was the cloud-soaring space-splitting Qilin's soul. A normal soul was a heat condensed from a kind of spiritual power. It was very pure. But the cloud-soaring space-splitting Qilin's soul was pieced together by hundreds of millions of spiritual power. Although it was powerful, those spiritual powers were independent and no one was willing to submit to anyone. This caused the cloud-soaring space-splitting Qilin's soul to become hundreds of millions of fragments and could not be unified. Once the cloud-soaring space-splitting Qilin could not control these soul fragments, they would be in chaos. Everyone wanted to devour each other and then unify. Morong Yu guessed that the cloud-soaring space-splitting Qilin's soul had been like this since a long time ago. The reason why nothing had happened should be because the cloud-soaring space-splitting Qilin had been suppressed for a long time. However, the soul was getting stronger and stronger. If the cloud-soaring space-splitting Qilin's strength did not follow up and become stronger, it would not be able to continue suppressing. Morong Yu reckoned that the reason why it was like this time should be his soul attack making these erupt. In reality, Morong Yu guessed wrong. It was not his soul attack that made the cloud-soaring space-splitting Qilin erupt. It was that the cloud-soaring space-splitting Qilin's soul already reached the edge of eruption. Even without Morong Yu, it would completely erupt after a period of time. Morong Yu merely accelerated the time of eruption. At this rate, the cloud-soaring space-splitting Qilin would die without a doubt. Morong Yu did not hesitate. Grabbing the cloud-soaring space-splitting Qilin, he rushed into the Hichu Luoshu. He wanted to cure the cloud-soaring space-splitting Qilin. Chapter 1619. Hichu Luoshu was Morong Yu's world. In this world, he was the master. Therefore, when he entered Hichu Luoshu with the cloud-ripping Hichu Luoshu, Morong Yu mobilized the power of Hichu Luoshu and directly suppressed the cloud-ripping Qilin. If he was at his peak, Morong Yu might have to spend a lot of effort to suppress the cloud-ripping Qilin. But now, the cloud-ripping Qilin's consciousness was gone and only the power to cause trouble was left. It was no match for Morong Yu at all. Moreover, these forces were all independent and were no match for Morong Yu at all. With the help of the He-Tu and the Book of the Luo, Morong Yu managed to completely suppress the restless forces in less than 2 hours. However, suppression was suppression, but it was impossible to sort them all out and gather them into an extremely condensed and pure force. To do this, the cloud-ripping Qilin had to do it himself. During this process, Morong Yu also used the Tree of Life to repair the cloud-ripping Qilin's physical body. It made his physical body stronger. However, the physical body and strength were easy to deal with, and these were not the main reasons. The soul. The main reason was the soul. Looking at the cloud-ripping Qilin's soul that was condensed from billions of soul fragments, Morong Yu had a headache. Among the billions of soul fragments, only a small part of the soul belonged to the cloud-ripping Qilin. If the other souls were devoured or extracted, the cloud-ripping Qilin's soul would become extremely weak. With his current strength, his weak soul could not control his physical body and strength at all and would be shattered into powder. He could not extract it, nor could he devour it. He could only let the cloud-ripping Qilin's soul devour it. However, the cloud-ripping Qilin had already fainted and did not have any consciousness. Even if he had consciousness, he could not devour the other soul fragments. Otherwise, these soul fragments would have been devoured long ago, and the cloud-ripping Qilin would not be in such a situation. Morong Yu guessed that if it weren't for the connection between soul and strength, the Qilin's cultivation wouldn't have been limited to ancient sage. In fact, He had long since become a primal chaos ancestral saint. Even reaching the Autark realm wouldn't be a problem. In that case, Murong Yu would definitely die if he entered the primordial battlefield. What should we do? He could only let the Qilin devour it himself. However, those soul fragments are too powerful. Murong Yu muttered to himself. Although the soul fragments that formed the soul of the cloud-splitting space Qilin were small, they were extremely powerful. Every soul emitted a terrifying aura. Murong Yu guessed that these soul fragments were swallowed by the soaring cloud space-splitting Qilin using a special method. They should be the soul fragments of the fallen experts in the ancient battlefield. Back then, those who had participated in the War of the 10,000 Races were all top powerhouses. Although most of their soul fragments had perished, there were still quite a number of them on the huge battlefield. If it could devour all of these soul fragments, then the soul of the cloud-soaring space-splitting Qilin would definitely be extremely terrifying. Unfortunately, this fellow was just swallowing everything in one go. But it couldn't be digested. In the end, it was a tragedy. If it couldn't devour the other soul fragments, the soul of the cloud-soaring space-splitting Qilin would definitely explode and be annihilated in the end. That's the only way. Murong Yu sat cross-legged on the ground and pondered for a while. Then, he began to invade the soul of the cloud-soaring space-splitting Qilin and began to awaken the Qilin's soul. What's going on? Roar. When the Qilin's consciousness woke up, it saw Murong Yu. Then, without any hesitation, it roared angrily and was about to pounce over to kill Murong Yu. Don't move if you don't want to die. Murong Yu condensed his soul power into his appearance and roared fiercely. Suddenly, the cloud-soaring space-splitting Qilin was stunned. It stood in the distance and looked at Murong Yu with anger and vigilance. It still remembered that it wanted to devour this person's soul. However, it was attacked by the other party's soul, and then its soul exploded. After that, it lost its memory. Because it had already fainted. Your soul is very serious. If you trust me, I can help you to devour these souls. If you don't trust me, then you can fend for yourself. Murong Yu said lightly. He didn't persuade the cloud-soaring space-splitting Qilin, nor did he threaten it. He just explained his point of view. He knew that the Qilin would definitely agree. As expected, the Qilin immediately hesitated. It was naturally aware of its own situation. If this continued, it would definitely die. However, would Murong Yu be so kind? Moreover, most importantly, did he have the ability to do so? I don't dare to guarantee that I can. The main thing is, do you want to give it a try? It was as if he knew what the Qilin was thinking. Murong Yu said lightly. He really didn't have full confidence. Of course, if it was his own soul, he would devour it directly. Hearing Murong Yu's words, the Qilin was slightly relieved. If Murong Yu said that he could do it, it would definitely not believe it. However, was Murong Yu so selfless to help it? Without any request? What conditions do you have? The Qilin still maintained its vigilance. Murong Yu shook his head. Although he wanted to subdue the cloud-soaring space-splitting Qilin, he didn't want to take advantage of it. If he wanted to subdue the Qilin, then it had to make the Qilin submit willingly. The Qilin's eyes twinkled. Murong Yu's answer was out of its expectations. It originally thought that Murong Yu would let it be his pet so that it would help him. After all, it was the king of the sacred beasts and its power was incomparably strong. Who didn't want to keep it? All right. If you really help me settle this, I will definitely repay you heavily. Although the Qilin was still somewhat doubtful and vigilant, in the end, it still couldn't resist this huge temptation. No matter what schemes Murong Yu had, if he dared to harm him, he would kill him with a punch after he recovered. Hence, the Qilin held this thought and started to accept Murong Yu's help. I don't know what's wrong with you, but your original intention was to devour these soul fragments to strengthen your own soul. However, although you devoured them, you couldn't digest them. Now I will help you digest these soul fragments. Morong Yu said in a deep voice. His enormous soul rushed into the Qilin's soul and grabbed a strand of soul fragment and refined it directly. Prepare to devour. After refining this strand of soul fragment, Morong Yu shouted and handed over the strand of soul that belonged to the Qilin. The reason why Morong Yu's soul had the ability to devour and merge souls. That was because he had merged with a soul-devouring pearl previously. However, the Qilin didn't. Hence, it couldn't digest these soul fragments. However, after Morong Yu had refined the power of the soul, the Qilin's soul could devour it. Not long after, the Qilin devoured this strand of soul power that had been refined. Morong Yu had also refined the second strand of soul fragment. Hence, it was refining and devouring at the same time. Just like that, half a month passed. Looking at the countless soul fragments, Morong Yu was speechless. What's the end of this? After refining for half a month, Morong Yu had refined the last strand of soul fragment. However, this was only the tip of the iceberg among the countless soul fragments. To refine all the soul fragments, Morong Yu estimated that it would take at least 100,000 years. Moreover, he was refining the weakest soul fragment now. This, boss, don't be sad. Isn't it just some soul fragments? You can definitely do it. A man can't not do it. The Qilin came up and said with a smile. After spending half a month together, the Qilin finally realized that Morong Yu wasn't a bad guy. Although he wanted to subdue the Qilin, at least he wouldn't take advantage of the Qilin. Moreover, Morong Yu had helped him wholeheartedly, so the Qilin was naturally grateful. After everyone was familiar with each other, the Qilin started to call him boss. Xiao Bai, are you looking for a beating? Morong Yu glared at this guy and kicked him to the ground. Xiao Bai, the cloud-splitting Qilin, had a gloomy face. He ran back to Morong Yu with a sad face. I say, boss, can't you change your name? This name is too retarded. Your brain is almost crippled now. I think Xiao Bai, this retarded name suits you. Morong Yu looked at Xiao Bai with a smile. Then, Xiao Bai fell silent. After joking for a while, Morong Yu looked at the soul fragments. He frowned slightly. Boss, actually, if you're fine, then take it slow. Anyway, I've been like this for countless years. With your help, I should be fine for a short period of time. Xiao Bai quickly said. Morong Yu shook his head. He was never someone who gave up halfway. Time? If not for Hichu Luoshu, he might not be willing to spend 100,000 years to help the Qilin. At most, he would only help to suppress it when he was free. However, Hichu Luoshu could accelerate time. Therefore, Morong Yu began to accelerate time. 1,000 years, 10,000 years, 100,000 years. After 100,000 years, there were still many fragments in the Qilin's soul. Morong Yu's estimation was too optimistic. 1,000,000 years. After 1,000,000 years, Morong Yu finally refined all of Xiao Bai's soul fragment. With Morong Yu's help, Xiao Bai's soul rose sharply and reached the level of a meteor soul. After taking control of the soul, Xiao Bai quickly suppressed the energy in his body. Then, with Morong Yu's help, the restless energy condensed into a powerful and pure energy that was completely under Xiao Bai's control. Xiao Bai's original strength had reached the level of an experienced level 9 chaotic celestial body, and now he had surpassed it and rushed into the ranks of the saint rankings. Boss, I'll follow you from now on. Xiao Bai stood in front of Morong Yu and said sincerely. Being powerful was one thing, but the most important thing was that he could finally live a normal life. He no longer had to suffer from the soul torture he had suffered since birth. His parents couldn't give him all of this, but Morong Yu gave it to him. Chapter 1620. Morong Yu could be said to be Xiao Bai's second parent. He had given him a new life. Moreover, Xiao Bai also wanted to leave the primordial battlefield. Therefore, he had the idea of following Morong Yu. Morong Yu naturally welcomed this. Xiao Bai was now an expert on the saint rankings. Who wouldn't want such an expert on the saint rankings by their side? Moreover, once Xiao Bai really grew up, his strength would be even more terrifying. Boss, do you want to explore the primordial battlefield again? However, there are extremely terrifying vengeful spirits in the depths of the primordial battlefield. Normally, I don't dare to go in. Xiao Bai asked Murong Yu after they came out of the cave where Xiao Bai's parents were buried. Spirits and vengeful spirits were all spiritual bodies. They had a great effect on Murong Yu's soul. If he could refine them, Murong Yu's soul would probably grow again. However, as Xiao Bai said, there were the vengeful spirits of peerless experts in the primordial era. After so many years of development, they were even more terrifying now. If Murong Yu went over, he would probably be devoured directly. However, if it was only in the periphery, it was not impossible to take a look. If he could subdue some relatively weaker souls, it would be quite beneficial to his soul. After pondering for a while, Murong Yu was about to answer when a sinister voice sounded. You don't have to go anywhere. The sinister voice made Murong Yu and Xiao Bai's hair stand on end. At the same time, a figure slowly appeared in the void in front of them. Finally, he stood a mile away from them. His emotionless eyes flickered with cold light as he looked at Murong Yu. Murong Yu saw a trace of greed in the other party's eyes. It was a strong greed. Murong Yu knew that this was another person who had a chance encounter with his physical body. Moreover, it was also possible that this person had banished him into the primordial battlefield. It was really like when enemies met, their eyes blazed with hatred. A terrifying murderous intent erupted from Murong Yu's body like a torrent. It shattered space and swept towards the skinny man in black like a storm. You banished me into the primordial battlefield? Murong Yu's voice was cold as he roared with terrifying murderous intent and fury. You actually know about the primordial battlefield? Hichu Luoshu can't be used anymore, right? I'll give you a choice now. Kill yourself or be killed by me, the skinny man in black said indifferently. It was as if Murong Yu was a turtle in his jar, unable to escape at all. In fact, the skinny man in black was a powerhouse on the Saint rankings. Furthermore, the ancient battlefield space was extremely sturdy, making it impossible for Murong Yu to teleport. As for Murong Yu, who couldn't teleport away, how could he possibly be his opponent? Luo Luoshu 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 Zes. He luos to Luo Luos. Once he became the master of primal chaos, he would truly be immortal and the strongest in the world. Murong Yu's eyes were spitting fire as he looked at the skinny black-clothed man in front of him. His heart was in his throat. From afar, this skinny black-clothed man looked even more powerful than the black-clothed youth he had encountered before. Both of them were experts on the Saint rankings. It was obvious that this person's ranking was much higher than the previous black-clothed youth. Then, he turned to look at Little White. Little White was also an expert on the Saint rankings. However, his ranking was definitely not as high as this person's. Little White, do you know the exit of the primordial battlefield? Murong Yu looked angrily at the skinny black-clothed man as he transmitted his voice to Little White. Whitey shook her head. She'd lived in the primeval battlefield since she was born, and she'd never left this place. Furthermore, ever since he could remember, his parents had already passed away. Although he could inherit memories, he did not have any memories of the exit. Murong Yu's heart sank. He wasn't even a match for the previous black-robed youth, let alone this skinny black-robed man. His battle prowess and speed were far inferior to his opponents. Then, was there really no way for him to escape? Boss, although I don't know the exit. However, I can go out directly. If I have a spatial coordinate, I can break through the void and teleport away, Little White said in a low voice. Murong Yu was stunned. Then, he was overjoyed. Little White actually had the ability? It should be her innate ability. Although Murong Yu had mastered the rules of space, it was only the beginning. He didn't have this ability at all. Little White's ability was unbelievable. As for the spatial coordinate, it was rather simple. It was more commonly used in the Holy World. Therefore, Murong-Yu chose a spatial coordinate and passed it to Little White. Boss, try to delay the time. I can break through the void in about 15 minutes and build a spatial tunnel, Little White transmitted her voice. At the same time, she was already preparing to build the spatial tunnel. Who exactly are you? Murong-Yu still looked angry as he stared at the skinny black-clothed man. Hee, there's no harm in telling you. I'm Wang Tianlu from the Tiangang sect. The skinny black-clothed man laughed. His voice was very scary. A disciple of the Tiangang sect, one of the 10 great sacred lands of the human race. Murong-Yu's eyes flashed with a cold light. His killing intent skyrocketed. In the entire holy world, there were only a total of 108,000 experts on the holy rankings. Other than those rogue cultivators, most of them were from large factions. However, the holy world was huge. On average, there were very few experts on the holy rankings of a faction. The 10 great sacred lands of the human race, each of them had experts on the holy rankings. However, there weren't many of them. For example, the infernal affairs now had 2 experts on the holy rankings. This number was already very objective. Although the Tiangang sect had many more disciples than the infernal affairs. However, there weren't many experts on the holy rankings. At most, there wouldn't be more than 5 experts on the holy rankings. If he could kill this Wang Tianlu, it would definitely be a heavy blow to the Tiangang sect. Therefore, Murong-Yu already had a strong killing intent towards Wang Tianlu. An undisguised killing intent erupted from Murong-Yu's body. It was like a stormy sea that swept in all directions. However, Wang Tianlu didn't have any reaction. If Murong-Yu was also an expert on the holy rankings, he would still be a little worried. However, Murong-Yu didn't pose any threat to him now. Is that person from before also an expert from the Tiangang sect? Murong-Yu asked another question. Towards that person, Murong-Yu had long developed killing intent. It was just that he didn't know the other party's identity. You're talking about that idiot Go Yuanliang? He's your enemy. The so-called expert from the true martial temple. Wang Tianlu chuckled with a look of disdain. Although they were both experts on the holy rankings, his ranking was much higher than the other party's. If he wanted to kill the other party, it was absolutely no problem. True martial temple? A cold killing intent flashed across Murong-Yu's brows. The people from the true martial temple were getting more and more overboard. If there was a chance, Murong-Yu would definitely flatten the entire true martial temple. However, at least wait until he became a supreme. After all, the true martial temple still had a supreme as their backer. Kid, you know too much. I can't wait anymore. I'll give you 3 breaths of time to kill yourself. Otherwise, I'll personally kill you. Wang Tianlu said coldly. At this time, Little White had yet to set up the spatial tunnel. Murong-Yu's scalp went numb. He took a step forward and looked at the other party indifferently. If you want my body, then do it yourself. Divine Soul Slash. In the blink of an eye, Murong-Yu had already sold it. He raised his soul attack to the limit and quickly slashed forward. You're really overestimating yourself. The Soul Saint isn't omnipotent. Wang Tianlu sneered and directly punched out. Boom! Murong-Yu's soul attack was shattered into millions of pieces in midair. On the other hand, Wang Tianlu coldly snorted. His fist turned into a claw as he grabbed at Murong-Yu. Boom! 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 Murong-Yu took out all sorts of treasures, causing them to erupt with multicolored sacred lights. They carried a frightening power capable of destroying the world as they bombarded Wang Tianlu with earth-shattering might. Not bad. However, today I'll let you know how terrifying a powerhouse on the Saint rankings is. Wang Tianlu sneered. The hand that was originally going for Murong-Yu's head grabbed at the air. Rumble, a terrifying power erupted from his 5 fingers like a torrent. Suddenly, the purple light heavenly sieve pagoda, mountain sea scripture, and all kinds of treasures seemed to be trapped by a terrifying force and stopped in the void. In the next moment, the treasures were pulled by a terrifying force and quickly rushed toward Wang Tianlu. "I'll gladly accept these treasures then." Wang Tianlu chuckled as he grabbed the treasures in his hand. Hee hee. Wang Tianlu chuckled as he grabbed the treasures in his hand. Murong Yu's expression was cold as he roared in his heart. A powerful force was injected into the treasures and was about to control them to fly back. However, Wang Tianlu was too powerful. The treasures were firmly grasped in his hand and could not escape. Noisy. Seeing the treasures trembling continuously, trying to break free from his control, Wang Tianlu could not help but shout coldly. A terrifying power erupted from his palm and drowned all the treasures. Murong Yu was shocked and he spat out a mouthful of blood. Wang Tianlu was erasing the mind power that he had attached to the treasures. Once the mind power was erased, the treasures would have nothing to do with him. Fight! There was no way Murong Yu would allow his treasures to be taken away by someone else. After a moment of clenching his teeth, he gave up on controlling the other treasures and injected all his power into the purple light heavenly sieve pagoda. He wanted to activate the supreme weapon's power to kill Wang Tianlu. Boom! The purple light heavenly sieve pagoda shook violently. Dazzling purple light and five-colored holy light burst out, and a terrifying aura that could destroy heaven and earth instantly erupted. After an earth-shattering explosion, Wang Tianlu was caught off guard and was blasted away by the purple light heavenly sieve pagoda. The other treasures that he had bound were also blasted away. At that moment, the purple light heavenly sieve pagoda had been activated to the extreme. It carried a terrifying aura that could shatter heaven and earth as it charged toward Wang Tianlu. Chapter 16:21. Wang Tianlu was taken aback. However, he was only taken aback. With Murong Yu's current strength, even if he pushed the power of the purple radiance heavenly rhoda to the limit, it would not hurt him. Of course, if Murong Yu was also an expert on the saint rankings, Wang Tianlu would have turned and fled long ago. Unfortunately, Murong Yu was not an expert on the saint rankings. With a sneer, Wang Tianlu threw a punch at the incoming purple radiance heavenly rhoda. During this process, the various treasures like the Yin-Yang cauldron had already been taken back by Murong Yu. Since the power of these treasures could not threaten Wang Tianlu, Murong Yu did not have to waste any effort. He might as well use them to protect himself. This way, he would be able to block part of Wang Tianlu's attack. Clang! After an earth-shattering sound, the purple radiance heavenly rhoda was sent flying again. The difference between him and Wang Tianlu was still too great. He spat out a mouthful of blood. His mind was hurt by the overflowing damage from the purple radiance heavenly rhoda. At this moment, Murong Yu's powerful mind already had small cracks, like a porcelain that was about to shatter. He was no match for Wang Tianlu at all. Murong Yu's face was so gloomy that it looked like water was about to drip out. "Boss, the void tunnel is built." At this moment, Little White's voice rang in Murong Yu's ears. Murong Yu was delighted, but he did not show it on the surface. He urged the purple radiance heavenly rhoda to attack Wang Tianlu again. At the same time, the two of them had already crashed into the void tunnel without leaving a trace. As long as they entered the void tunnel, they would be able to leave the primordial battlefield. Once they left the primordial battlefield, Hichu Luoshu would be able to teleport. At that time, even if Wang Tianlu was several times stronger, he would not be able to do anything to Murong Yu. At least, Murong Yu could protect himself. Wang Tianlu easily sent the purple radiance heavenly rhoda flying. The overflowing damage caused Murong Yu to spit out blood again. However, at this time, Murong Yu had already entered the space tunnel. Infinite banishment. Just as Murong Yu heaved a sigh of relief and thought that he could teleport away from the primordial battlefield, a cold shout suddenly rang out. Then, An inexplicable force once again enveloped Morong Yu and his companion. The scenery in front of him changed, and in the next moment, Morong Yu found that he had left the original place. However, he did not leave the ancient battlefield. Instead, he appeared on the other side of the battlefield. Seeing the familiar environment, Morong Yu couldn't help but be stunned. Then, he couldn't help but curse, F***CKU. He was actually exiled to the primeval battlefield again. That skill was simply too disgusting. Little White, can we still build a spatial tunnel? Morong Yu turned to look at Little White. Xiaobai nodded slightly. There was no problem in establishing a spatial passage. But it would take time. What time is there now? This was because they felt an extremely powerful aura shattering the void from afar and shooting over like lightning. Wang Tianlu chased after them again. Let's go. Morong Yu was extremely aggrieved. He pulled Little White and turned around to leave. Moreover, he had targeted the depths of the primeval battlefield and shot over. If not, he wouldn't have been able to escape from Wang Tianlu's grasp. The depths of the primeval battlefield were extremely dangerous. Even Wang Tianlu did not dare to act recklessly. As long as he had enough time, Morong Yu could leave this disgusting place. Dreams were always beautiful, but reality was always so cruel. Wang Tianlu's speed was extremely fast, and he also knew how to track. It didn't take long for him to catch up. Boss, this stalker has been following us. If he doesn't die, we won't be able to escape at all, Little White said to Morong Yu as he looked at Wang Tianlu with murderous intent. He was extremely annoyed with Wang Tianlu. Morong Yu's eyes flashed with cold killing intent. He also wanted to kill Wang Tianlu, but he didn't have the ability to do so now. Boss, let me do it. My strength is about the same as his. Even if I can't kill him, I can still severely injure him. Little White gritted his teeth and asked to fight. Alright, let's work together to kill him. Morong Yu gritted his teeth and agreed. This was also the only way. They could only fight to the death. Why aren't you running anymore? Seeing that Morong Yu and Little White stopped running, Wang Tianlu walked over step by step with a sneer on his face. He was enjoying the feeling of a cat catching a mouse. Kill! Whitey roared and turned into a beam of purple light. It smashed through billions of space-time and charged towards Wang Tianlu. Seeing Little White charging over with murderous intent, the disdain on Wang Tianlu's face became even stronger. Little White's cultivation was still too low. Even if he stood there and let Little White attack, Little White couldn't kill him. Therefore, Wang Tianlu pointed out with his finger, wanting to kill Little White directly. Seeing that Wang Tianlu was so arrogant, Morong Yu and Little White were secretly delighted. Especially Little White, there was even a hint of a smile in his eyes. Something was wrong. Seeing the smile in Little White's eyes, Wang Tianlu's pupils constricted and he felt that something was wrong. However, it was all too late. Die! At that moment, Little White had already charged in front of Wang Tianlu. At that moment, Little White unleashed his strongest power. Wang Tianlu was shocked and hurriedly struck out with his palm. However, Little White was also an expert on the holy list. How could Wang Tianlu, who acted hastily, be able to block an all-out attack? With a bang, the power that he struck out was directly shattered by Little White. Before Wang Tianlu could react, Whitey's power had already landed on his body. Boom! After an earth-shattering explosion, Wang Tianlu's black robe was the first to shatter. It revealed Wang Tianlu's ugly body that was covered in huge blisters as if he had been scalded by boiling water. No wonder this fellow was always covered in a black robe. Anyone else would do the same. After seeing Wang Tianlu's body, Morong Yu and Little White had the same thought in their minds at the same time. After Wang Tianlu's black robe was shattered, Wang Tianlu's human body could not withstand Little White's attack and exploded violently, turning into a cloud of blood mist. After his body was shattered, Wang Tianlu's soul let out a sharp cry and broke through the void. He charged into the distance and was about to escape. Soul Slash! At that moment, Morong-yu, who was already prepared, finally made his move. The first move was his strongest single-target soul attack. Poof! Wang Tianlu's soul did not even have time to react before it was brutally slashed. Then, there was no more then. It was directly slashed into pieces and turned into dust. An expert on the holy list was killed just like that? Although Wang Tianlu had been killed, Morong-yu and Whitey weren't happy at all. On the contrary, their faces were extremely gloomy. Something was wrong. If Wang Tianlu was so easy to kill, he would have been killed long ago. Why would they wait until now? In other words, they did not think that Wang Tianlu had been killed by them. Very good. You have successfully angered me. I have changed my mind. After killing you, I will detain your souls and torture them for billions of eras. A sinister and furious voice suddenly sounded from behind Morong-yu and Little White. At the same time, an extremely terrifying force covered the sky. Bang! Bang! Morong-yu and Xiao Bai didn't even have time to react before they were ruthlessly struck by the attack. Boom, 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 terrifying cracks appeared on Morong-yu's body and the meridians in his body were shattered. He flew out like a kite with a broken string and shattered countless spacetimes. Morong-yu wasn't that bad. Perhaps it was because he was worried about his physical body. On the other hand, Little White did not have such a good treatment. His entire body exploded into pieces. If it was not for Little White's inherited combat skills and her incomparably powerful body, his soul would have been shattered. Even so, his soul was shaken to the point of loosening up. Die! Wang Tianlu stepped out from the void and pointed at Little White. Morong-yu panicked and instantly took out all his treasures to attack Wang Tianlu's finger. Meanwhile, Little White seized the opportunity and quickly recovered her physical body. However, it was all in vain. The furious Wang Tianlu was even more powerful than before. The treasures that Morong-yu took out did not even stop Wang Tianlu's attack. Little White's body was destroyed again. Although the soul escaped again, Wang Tianlu chased after it. It wouldn't take more than a few moments for Little White's soul to be destroyed. Boss, you saved my life. Now I'll exchange it for your life. We're even. At this moment, Little White's tragic voice suddenly sounded in Morong-yu's mind. At the same time, a determined and powerful aura was released from Little White's soul. Little White wanted to self-destruct her soul. If a meteor-grade soul self-destructed, even Wang Tianlu would not be able to take it, right? Little White, no. Morong-yu roared. At the same time, a look of determination flashed across his eyes. Purple radiant sky roar tower. Explode. Explode. Morong-yu roared in his heart and controlled the purple radiant sky roar tower to attack Wang Tianlu. At this moment, the purple radiant sky roar tower exploded with an unprecedentedly terrifying aura. The terrifying aura even shocked Wang Tianlu. Morong-yu wanted to detonate the purple radiant sky roar tower. One had to know that the purple radiant sky roar tower was a supreme weapon. If it self-destructed, it would be equivalent to an attack from a supreme. It was true that Wang Tianlu was powerful, but there was still a huge gap between him and a supreme. Therefore, when he discovered Morong-yu's intention, he was shocked. Then, he no longer cared about killing Little White or capturing Morong-yu. He turned around and fled. At the same time, Morong-yu had already grabbed Little White's soul and rushed into the Hichu Luoshu. Boom! Just as the two of them rushed into the Hichu Luoshu, before they could get far, the purple radiant sky roar tower exploded. Chapter 1622. Dazzling. The five-colored holy light filled the entire area. It was so dazzling that no one could open their eyes. Morong-yu only had time to see the dazzling five-colored holy light. Then, he lost consciousness. His vision turned black. He didn't know anything. The self-destruction of a supreme artifact was equivalent to an attack from a supreme being. How powerful was a supreme being's attack? This time, Morong-yu finally felt it. Wang Tianlu was powerful enough, right? Morong-yu didn't have the slightest bit of temper. He didn't even have the strength to fight back. Even Little White, who was also an expert on the saint rankings, wasn't Wang Tianlu's match. However, the moment the Purple Radiance Heavenly Roar Tower self-destructed, Wang Tianlu died. He died completely. In an instant, his entire body and soul were turned into dust by the terrifying power of the supreme artifact's self-destruction. Nothing was left. Other than that, everything within 100 million miles was flattened. After half a day, the power of the Purple Radiance Heavenly Roar Tower's self-destruction gradually dissipated. The void that had been destroyed also returned to its original state. Plop! Suddenly, an ancient scroll appeared out of thin air. It fluttered in the wind and finally landed on the ground. A cloud of dust flew up. Hichu Luoshu. Inside the Hichu Luoshu, Morong-yu was in a very miserable state. In other words, Morong-yu couldn't be described as miserable anymore. The power of a supreme artifact's self-destruction was extremely terrifying. The Hichu Luoshu was a treasure that was much higher than a supreme artifact. Naturally, it wasn't damaged. However, as the owner of the Hichu Luoshu, Morong-yu was in a more miserable state. At this moment, Morong-yu's body, which had reached the level of an ancestral artifact, had been destroyed by the overflowing damage. At the same time, a large part of Morong-yu's powerful mind was shattered. At this moment, it was only about 10% of its usual state. It was extremely terrifying. In fact, this wasn't the most terrifying part. The most terrifying part was that Morong-yu's 6-star soul was also shattered. At this moment, Morong-yu's soul could no longer be described as a soul. A remnant soul. That's right, more than half of his soul had been torn apart. At this moment, there was only less than half of his original soul left. After receiving such a heavy blow, Morong-yu fainted. Boss! Boss! Little White stood beside Morong-yu, looking at Morong-yu's remnant soul, and kept growling. His eyes were spitting fire. His killing intent soared, but at the same time, he was filled with grief. On the contrary, because of the relationship between Morong-yu and Hichu Luoshu, Little White's soul did not continue to be damaged. At this point, he had already recovered his physical body. However, looking at Morong-yu's appearance, he was also helpless and could only watch helplessly and anxiously. It couldn't be helped. Although his soul was powerful, he didn't know how to repair souls. After all, the Qilin's inheritance was all about strength and cultivation. It didn't understand soul attacks at all, and Morong-yu's soul was severely injured. If it wasn't treated and allowed to develop, it was very likely that it would be destroyed because of this. This is the only way. Little White pondered for a moment. In the end, he extended his soul power and enveloped Morong-yu's remnant soul. Little White used his soul power to nourish Morong-yu's soul. However, at the beginning, Morong-yu's remnant soul still did not have any reaction. In fact, Little White even felt that Morong-yu's soul was gradually weakening. Little White was anxious, but he continued to use his soul power to nourish Morong-yu's remnant soul. That was all he could do now. Day after day passed. Morong-yu's soul had already weakened. Little White's nourishment had no effect at all. However, although he was anxious, he still nourished it. A dead horse was still alive. This was the only way out of desperation. On this day, just as he was about to lose all hope, Little White realized that some of his soul power seemed to have been devoured. He was first shocked, then he was pleasantly surprised, because he realized that his soul power was being devoured by Morong-yu's remnant soul. Thus, Whitey focused all of its attention on Morong-yu's remnant soul. After half a day, Morong-yu's soul moved again and devoured a strand of Little Obi's soul power. At this time, Little White finally saw that Morong Yu's remnant soul had regained its vitality. It was no longer weakening. On the contrary, after devouring Little White's soul power, Morong Yu's remnant soul began to grow stronger. This was a good thing. Little White was pleasantly surprised. He extended more soul power and firmly submerged Morong Yu's remnant soul. In the beginning, Morong Yu only devoured soul power once a day. As time passed, the frequency of him devouring soul power increased. It became once every half a day, then once every 2 hours. "Boss, if you don't wake up, my soul power will be completely devoured by you." 10 years later. On this day, Little White bitterly looked at Morong Yu's remnant soul that had grown stronger. He was depressed. For 10 years, Morong Yu had been devouring Little White's soul power. Although Little White's soul was strong, he was not a soul saint. His soul pool was relatively weak, and there was not much soul power stored in it. Therefore, it did not take long for his soul power to be completely devoured. Although his soul power could slowly recover, it was not enough for Morong Yu to devour. In the end, Morong Yu directly devoured Little White's soul. Although Little White was depressed about this, he did not dare to stop. He was afraid that if he did not continue devouring soul power, something would happen to Morong Yu. It would be a tragedy if Morong Yu's soul became weaker again, or if it simply shattered. Morong Yu was his second parent. Without Morong Yu, he would not be who he was today. Even if his soul was completely devoured by Morong Yu, Little White would have no regrets. It was because of this that Little White persevered. However, Whitey did not feel good when it saw its soul being depleted continuously. Little White suddenly realized that right after he finished speaking, Morong Yu, who had been endlessly devouring his spiritual energy, had suddenly stopped. Then, a voice rang in his mind, "Little White, it's been hard on you these few days." "Boss, you're finally awake?" Little White was stunned when he heard Morong Yu's voice. Then, he was overjoyed. If not for the fact that Morong Yu was still in the form of a remnant soul, Little White would have given him a bear hug. "It's all thanks to you. If not for you, I would have died long ago." Morong Yu sighed. He had fainted earlier on. However, when he started devouring Little White's soul, Morong Yu regained his consciousness. However, he only regained his consciousness and did not have the ability to communicate. In other words, he was still unable to communicate. Although he was conscious at that time, he could not control his soul. Therefore, he could only watch as his soul devoured Little White's soul power instinctively. In fact, at this moment, Morong Yu could slowly recover even if he did not devour Little White's soul power. However, it would take an extremely long time. Moreover, devouring Little White's soul power like this was an extremely heavy burden on Little White's soul. Therefore, when he regained the ability to control his soul, he immediately stopped devouring Little White's soul power. If he continued, Little White's entire soul would be devoured by him. "Boss, it's good that you're awake. Wait for me." As he spoke, Little White's figure flashed and disappeared from Morong Yu's sight. Morong Yu could not help but be shocked. At this moment, he had regained control of Hichu Luoshu. He immediately knew that Little White had left Hichu Luoshu. This was the second person who could enter and leave Hichu Luoshu freely. The first was Little Purple, and the second was Little White. As for Little Purple, the heavenly demoness had said that he would wake up soon. However, Little Purple had not woken up yet. He did not know what was going on. Swish! Not long after Little White left, he appeared in front of Morong Yu again. "Boss, your soul has suffered too much damage. Although these remnant souls do not contain much soul power, they are beneficial for your recovery." As he spoke, Little White lined up a large number of remnant souls in front of him. These were the remnant souls left behind by the experts who had died during the primordial war. Although there were not many of them, their soul power was extremely large. However, they were extremely vicious. If he could not completely refine them, it would not benefit his soul at all. However, Morong-yu wasn't worried about that at all. After all, his ability to devour and refine souls was unparalleled in the world. Moreover, the remnant souls that Little White had caught were relatively weak. Little White knows me best. Morong-yu laughed and immediately began to refine these remnant souls. While Morong-yu was refining the remnant souls, Little White went out again. Little White was very familiar with the primordial battlefield and constantly caught some remnant souls. As Morong-yu continued to refine them, it did not take long for his soul to recover to 10% of its original appearance. Little White, you don't have to catch any more soul fragments. Morong-yu finally recovered his physical body. Fortunately, although his physical body had been destroyed, the foundation was still there. After recovering, it had reached the level of an ancestral artifact. Otherwise, if it had fallen to an ordinary divine body, Morong-yu would have wanted to cry but had no tears. "Boss, you've completely recovered?" Little White came over and sized up Morong-yu. The current Morong-yu didn't seem any different from how he usually was. However, Morong-yu was the only one who knew about her. His soul was still 90% away from recovering to its peak. Such a soul would cause a tragedy with a single touch. Most importantly, his enormous soul sea had completely dried up. In other words, although he was still a soul saint now, he could no longer use soul attacks. Without soul power, how could he use soul attacks? Chapter 16:23. Boss, take a look and see if this is useful to you. Little White handed a yellowed booklet to Morong-yu. This is... Morong-yu took it and flipped through it casually. He looked at Little White in surprise. The booklet in his hand wasn't anything special. It was just a combat skill, infinite banishment. Morong-yu was quite familiar with this battle technique. He had been banished twice before. Moreover, Wang Tianlu had been blown to smithereens by the explosion of the purple light heavenly rhoda. However, this booklet was not damaged at all. Even the self-destruction of a supreme weapon was unable to damage this booklet. One could only imagine how powerful this booklet was. It was at least above the level of a supreme weapon, or even a dominator weapon. Morong-yu vaguely felt that this infinite banishment was most likely a technique on the same level as the Sun Monarch's Sun Sutra. That was a terrifying existence that surpassed the dominator level. Originally, Morong-yu had planned to leave Hichu Luoshu and go to the ancient battlefield to absorb the remnant souls left behind by the ancient powerhouses to repair his own soul. However, after seeing infinite banishment, he changed his mind. He even sat down cross-legged and began to cultivate. Infinite banishment was not a technique. It was just a move. However, it was voluminous and had tens of thousands of words. After reading all the chants, Morong-yu finally understood how terrifying infinite banishment was. As the name implied, infinite banishment was banishment. The target of banishment could be a person, a demon, or anything. The location of the banishment was not fixed. It could be banished to a secret realm, or it could be banished to a chaotic space. It could even be banished to the endless chaos. Even if it was cultivated to the realm of great mastery, it could even banish the target to the endless spacetime. The target would be lost in the endless spacetime and would never be able to find the way back. Infinite banishment itself did not have much destructive power. However, it was more terrifying than any move with great destructive power. Think about it: if a person was banished to the endless spacetime, perhaps in the ancient past or perhaps in the future, then that person could only be lost in space and time. Unless a miracle happened or the other party had the ability to control time and space, they would not be able to return to their current time and space. Since they were no longer in the same spacetime, no matter how powerful he would not be able to do anything to Morong-yu. Unless the other party was so powerful that he could even shatter spacetime and destroy the world. This was even more terrifying than Morong-yu's spacetime reversal. It's so scary. The more Murong Yu learned about it, the more he realized how scary infinite banishment was. Furthermore, Murong Yu was inwardly rejoicing in his heart. This was because Wang Tianlu had only scratched the surface of infinite banishment. He was not even a beginner in it. Otherwise, Murong Yu would have probably been exiled to some unknown place long ago, and not just the primeval battlefield. However, being exiled into the primeval battlefield was also filled with danger. If they didn't have any fortuitous encounters and were able to find the entrance, then they could only stay in the primeval battlefield for the rest of their lives. Originally, he had self-destructed a supreme weapon, and there was a supreme weapons corpse in the heavenly purple pagoda. These were all priceless treasures. When he decided to self-destruct the supreme weapon, Murong Yu hesitated for a long time. However, in order to save Little White and him, he still self-destructed resolutely. Originally, he felt that he was at a disadvantage. However, after seeing infinite banishment, he no longer felt that he was at a disadvantage. Not to mention one supreme weapon, even if there were 10 or 100 of them, they would not be able to compare to infinite banishment. After all, infinite banishment was too heaven-defying. Little White, do you want to comprehend it too? After Murong Yu finished reading, he turned to look at Little White. Little White's huge head shook like a rattledrum. I don't have the talent. I've already comprehended it before. I didn't gain anything. Little White had naturally seen infinite banishment and knew how terrifying and heaven-defying this skill was. He also wanted to comprehend it, but he didn't have the talent. There was nothing he could do. Murong Yu nodded, although it was a pity. However, he had no choice. Some skills couldn't be cultivated just because one wanted to. Just like the chaotic celestial body record that he cultivated, it could only be cultivated by him. However, a heaven-defying skill like infinite banishment was not something that anyone could cultivate. Even Murong Yu himself wasn't confident that he could cultivate it. With a thought, Murong Yu condensed his soul power into a physical body and sat cross-legged in Hichu Luoshu. He held infinite banishment and began to comprehend it. As for his original body, he left Hichu Luoshu with Little White. Infinite banishment was so heaven-defying that it wasn't easy to comprehend it. Therefore, he only needed to use a part of his mind to comprehend it, while his original body began to devour the remnant souls of the ancient powerhouses wandering around the primordial battlefield. Murong Yu's soul was of a similar level as Little White's. However, his control over his soul was 100 times stronger than Little White's. With his power raised to the maximum, Murong Yu immediately saw countless remnant souls wandering around the primordial battlefield. These remnant souls were very small, and some couldn't even be seen. They couldn't be seen with the naked eye, but with divine consciousness. However, not seeing them didn't mean that they didn't exist. It was because of the existence of these remnant souls that the primordial battlefield was filled with ruthlessness and killing intent. The remnant souls were filled with strong resentment. Devour! Murong Yu roared in his heart. Suddenly, a huge suction force erupted from his body, and his eyes looked in all directions like a flood. In the next moment, the remnant souls were constantly attracted and entered Murong Yu's soul space. Then, they were devoured and merged with him. Looking at Murong Yu devouring the souls, Little White, who was beside him, had a look of envy. Murong Yu's devouring speed was much faster than his wife's. There was no comparison between the two of them. If my speed of catching the remnant souls was like a small stream, then Boss' speed is like a vast ocean. Little White rolled his eyes and then sat beside Murong Yu. In the process of devouring the souls, Murong Yu's body also surged with vitality and cleansed Little White's body. It kept washing away the impurities in his body, making his body stronger. Half a month later, Murong Yu stood up with a smile on his face. These ancient remnant souls are very small, and they are filled with ruthlessness and resentment. However, the soul power they contain is very pure and powerful. I didn't expect to recover 1/10 of the souls in just half a month. At that moment, with Murong Yu as the center, all the ancient remnant souls within 100 million miles of heaven and earth had been devoured by him. The originally gloomy sky was now clear, and the sun was shining brightly. The oppressive feeling also disappeared. "Little White, let's go to the next place." Murong Yu had already taken a step forward as he spoke. Then, his body swayed and disappeared from the spot. As for Little White, he did not even move. His body had already hidden in the void, and he quickly followed behind Murong Yu. The more souls recovered, the stronger the power of the soul. For the first time, Murong Yu used half a month to devour all the remnant souls within 100 million miles of radius. For the first time, he only used 10 days and the area was twice as large as the first time. Until 2 months later, Murong Yu's soul had recovered to its peak. Moreover, the soul power in his sea of soul had recovered by half. At that moment, the remnant souls that he had devoured were as numerous as the sand in the Ganges. As for the primordial battlefield, due to Murong Yu's crazy devouring, there was a large bright area. There were no clouds in the sky and the sun was shining brightly. However, this area was only the tip of the iceberg of the entire primordial battlefield. It was not even 1/1000th of the primordial battlefield. According to Little White, the entire primordial battlefield was filled with the skeletons of experts who had died in battle. During this process, due to the presence of Little White, the king of sacred beasts, there were no overconfident beasts that came to disturb him. Originally, Little White was the king of beasts in the primordial battlefield. Everywhere he went, there was no beast that did not respect him. Now that he was stronger, those beasts did not dare to be presumptuous. They did not even dare to come close. "Boss, should we go to the depths of the primordial battlefield to take a look?" Legend has it that that was the real battlefield of the primordial war. The top experts fought there. After seeing that Murong Yu had recovered, Little White bewitched Murong Yu excitedly. Little White's parents had also died in battle there. However, too much time had passed and Little White was not that sad. The time for him to be sad was long over. Most importantly, Little White's parents had left something in there. Little White had to get that thing. There must be a supreme weapon or even the corpse of a supreme being inside. There are many treasures, boss. I strongly suggest that we go in and take a look. Little White had wanted to enter the depths of the primordial battlefield for a long time. However, he did not dare to go in. Now that he had Murong Yu, a boss with many treasures, Little White's desire to go in was much stronger. Looking at the depths of the primordial battlefield that was as gloomy as night, Murong Yu did not say anything. However, his expression was very serious. That place gave Murong Yu an extremely strong sense of danger. It could even be said that it was the aura of death. He had a feeling that if he stepped in now, he would not be able to escape death. There seemed to be an extremely terrifying existence inside. Although danger was always accompanied by fortuitous encounters. However, Murong Yu did not lack fortuitous encounters now. There was no need to take the risk now. Therefore, he shook his head. "Little White, we can't go in now. If there's a chance in the future, we'll go in and take a look." As he spoke, he had already entered the Hichu Luoshu. Now was the time to cultivate infinite banishment. Little White looked at the depths of the primordial battlefield regretfully before entering the Hichu Luoshu as well. Just as Murong Yu entered the Hichu Luoshu, a faint sigh came from the depths of the primordial battlefield. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.